airport tracking. So had to get up very early yesterday in order to make sure the system was okay.
Dude, how early is very early for Bill Ford
I was up
Sunday?
On a Sunday, given the time change, I was up at 4:30, which would have been 3:30, which was exactly the same time we normally get up. So that was great.
Yeah, I'm definitely feeling it, still recovering.
The hardest part is the fact that your body still thinks you can stay up later. So it doesn't want you to go to sleep early, which would help in the morning. So it won't let you. So the idea of your clock winding down, that's the problem, is we're hardwired to continue to stay up a little bit later. And again, this is just a reinforcement that twice a year we all just pretend it's a different time. We just did this giant joke like, psst, hey, let's all pretend it's an hour later. Okay, great. Pass it on. This is dumb. Again, I don't care if we go to daylight savings time all the time or regular time. I do not care.
Just stop changing
Just pick one. I'm tired of this. I'm so tired of it. It's dumb.
I noticed there was a lot fewer cars on the road this morning. I think people are still recovering.
Everybody's still late to work. Oh, man. Yeah.
Well, I had a great weekend. Got a chance to go watch the re-election campaign launch of Danielle Jurinsky.
Oh, nice.
Which was awesome. Had some good friends there. We saw the Dougco contingent of George Brockler and Sheriff Darren Winkley and his wife. And then we saw Stephen Tubbs.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah,
nice.
Stephen was swinging by. So it was fantastic. It was like a reunion party. I'll give you insight into what Danielle talked about. Got some audio clips from that. But she is kicking it off. Easily could jump, in my mind, to a bigger race if she wanted to, but is proving very, very well that you can get elected locally and have a very big impact.
I don't get invited to those events because they don't want to be associated with me. They don't want to assume that I have joined the group because they look at me and go, wait, he's here? I got to rethink my vote. This is not good.
She was very much doing there's no R, no D. You'll even hear it in some of the audio,
I heard some of
right?
It, yeah.
This is about fixing problems, which is great.
Oh, yeah, it is.
And what you can do locally. So Danielle Jurinsky re-election campaign launch over the weekend. We'll get to that. We'll get to the Biden auto pen controversy. And then in the 7 o'clock hour, Richard Holtorf and Danielle Neuschwanger are joining us. They're running to be chair and vice chair of the Colorado Republican Party. We'll talk to them in the 7 o'clock hour. Rory O'Neill's going to join us in the 8 o'clock hour. He took a tour of NASA recently. He's going to give us some insight on how things are changing there and preparing for the next mission to the moon. And then Owen Strand's going to join us because I've noticed this interesting trend, particularly on X, among the hard right. I don't even put them in the hard right. They're just kind of Looney Tunes. But to become anti-Semitic. So this effort on the hard right, because they're not quite hard left, but the growing anti-Semitism there and the importance of Christians defending Jews. We'll get into that coming up in the 9 o'clock hour. So lots to talk about, plus news, plus an LA homeless audit that shows a lot of, shockingly, millions of dollars, in fact, billions of dollars, that they can't account for. It sounds oddly familiar, like we've had to deal with here in the city of Denver. So lots to cover today, but now it's time for news with Blake Olson.
Blake Olson.
Blake Olson, news and comment.
Hey, good morning, Jeff and Billy. Thank you very much. It's a beautiful Monday, 37 and mostly cloudy in Denver. Expecting a high of 69 today. The 7-10 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story.
Everybody understands government funding expires next Friday, a week from today. And, normally we want to use that as a pressure point to exact spending reductions and spending cuts. And we still do. And so one of those things that I think is critically important here is the president supports a continuing resolution for one simple reason. He, through Doge and Elon, he, through his great leadership of Russ Vought over the Office of Management and Budget, they have the keys to drive down spending using.
And Chip Roy, Texas, friend of the show, conservative. The CR will be the main topic today and tomorrow and throughout the week in D.C. and Conservatives like Chip Roy support it for 6 months so then Doge can do their thing.
Now, we don't have it all. So we need to keep the lights on. We need Elon to keep doing his work at Doge. We need all of that great team to deliver. And then we can insert that into appropriations this summer for FY26. Basically, freezing spending is always a good conservative win. We don't love the policies, right? That wouldn't be our normal choice. But now we have President Trump and his great team deciding how these policies are implemented. So we want to give them the flexibility to do the job.
And Marco Rubio on X this morning posting that we are officially canceling 83% of the programs at USAID. The 5,200 contracts that are canceled spent tens of billions of dollars of taxpayer money. Secret Service agents shot a man near the White House early Sunday morning. Agents confronted the armed suspect who allegedly pulled out a gun before being shot and was taken to the hospital. His condition is unknown. President Trump was at his Mar-a-Lago resort in Florida at the time of the incident. Later on Sunday, fighter jets from NORAD intercepted a civilian aircraft after it entered restricted airspace over Mar-a-Lago. It was the second time in 2 days that has happened. A federal judge will not issue an injunction to block U.S. immigration officers from making arrests on school property. Denver Public Schools sued the Department of Homeland Security last month in an attempt to stop immigration enforcement on school campuses. The judge ruled that the district had not shown a significant impact that would create a need for a temporary injunction. The Department of Health and Human Services is offering all employees a voluntary buyout over the weekend. Administration officials confirmed all 80,000 HHS employees were offered a voluntary separation incentive payment of $25,000. DJT has signed an executive order that would limit eligibility for the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program under the PSLF. Not-for-profit and government employees can have their federal student loans forgiven after 10 years of payments. Student loan borrowers and advocates have vowed to challenge Trump's order in court. DJT on Air Force One says that he knows that growth will happen.
We're going to have growth. I'm not going to touch Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid. Now, we're going to get fraud out of there. You know, you see where I talk about it all the time. We have people 250 years old and all, you know, tremendous fraud. But that has nothing to do with that. We're going to get the fraud out, and everybody wants us to get the fraud out, and therefore you'll make it better. But we're going to have tremendous growth. When you look at all of the car companies that are now coming into the United States, and they've been announcing, like on a daily basis, they're going to build their plants and they're going to create tremendous numbers of jobs.
Police say the two teens were wounded Sunday while playing with a gun in Aurora. Officers were called to a mobile home community on Sable Boulevard after the shooting was reported at around 7:30 at night. Investigators say a 15-year-old boy was playing with a gun when it went off, injuring him and another 15-year-old. Both teams were taken to the hospital, with one reported to have life-threatening injuries. News brought to you by Lair Fireplace and Patio, Denver's premier source for everything fireplace, patio, and grills. Locally owned and operated since 1954. Online at lairfireplacepatio.com. 33 in Castle Rock, 35 in North Glen, 37 in Denver. And by the way, Thunder over the Nuggets and UNC over Weber State to advance to the semis of the Big Sky Conference tournament on Tuesday. If they win two more games, they're going to be in the tournament coming up.
Blake, I got a question for you. Do you think Jokic is going to end up with the MVP again?
Oh, my goodness. Man, after 2 nights ago.
The 30-20-20?
Oh, my Lord. Yeah, that was incredible. I think he should, but I'm a little bit biased there. My son thinks so. He is on it every day, and he thinks, he's pretty objective too, and he thinks he should be the MVP. I kind of agree with him. After that, he just starts heating up, man.
Now,
Right
are
during this
you a March Madness guy?
I am. I love the tournament. It is the great. I mean, it may be the greatest sports event. The first 2 days.
Yeah.
Yeah, the first 2 days, because you have those rare situations where a team can knock off just a dominant force in college basketball, and that's what makes it great. I mean, typically it doesn't happen. The 16 beats the 1 seed, but when it does, man, it's special. It's awesome. I love the second weekend also, but the tournament, I don't know if you've ever been to the tournament, but it's just, man, it is so cool. I mean, the pep bands on each baseline, and it's a smart crowd, smart, really intelligent sports crowd, if you will.
Yeah.
And it's like a convention, man. It's like at one of those political conventions that you go to, but they throw basketball in there. It's just so cool how they do it. It's just class. That's the only thing the NCAA does well, is the tournament. And it just feels big. And it's just, man, spring is sprung. You have the tournament, spring break, and then you have the Masters right around the corner. So it's a good time, man. I wish I could go to the tournament every year. I really do. It's so cool.
I love it. I love it, man.
Yep.
Way to get us fired up for spring.
Hey, I appreciate it. Jeff and Billy, continue.
Governmentium is formed whenever morons reach a critical concentration. This hypothetical quantity is referred to as critical morass.
Oh, morass. Oh, I love this. I'm going to play that later. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Text messages are already blowing up on our 7 o'clock guests, Richard Holtorf and Danielle Neuschwanger. If you got questions or you want to talk to them, get ready. You can text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line at 720-819-5115, 720-819-5115, or give us a call at 303-696-1971. So after Danielle Jurinsky's launch party on Saturday, swung by my friends over at the Black Eyed Pea and had the meatloaf is always fantastic. The glazed carrots, the corn, the food is so fresh there. It's locally owned and operated by Steve and Michelle, and I love this restaurant. With 8 locations, there's sure to be one near you. When's the last time you took the family to eat at the Black Eyed Pea? St. Patrick's Day is coming up. What are your plans? Make sure it includes the Irish Feast, a 3-day celebration at the Black Eyed Pea, Saturday, March 15th to Monday, March 17th. They'll have corned beef and cabbage, slow cooked overnight, served with 2 separate sides. Beautiful. All right. Or you can order the traditional pork bangers and mashed potatoes. They'll have Irish pie and shepherd's pie. Maybe, this is my favorite right here, maybe a Reuben with sliced corned beef, sauerkraut, Swiss cheese, and Thousand Island dressing on toasted marbled rye. Oh, I'm taking some buddies for lunch today to the Black Eyed Pea. So many choices and all so good. Traditional Irish cheers available as well. Don't miss the Irish Feast at the Black Eyed Pea. I love everything about this restaurant. And not only is it locally owned here in Colorado, it's locally sourced as well. And you know about MAHA, right? Make America Healthy Again. It's not about going the progressive way of eating, like little wafers and starving yourself to death. It's about quality food, right? Getting away from the preservatives and the highly processed stuff. This is good quality vegetables, meat, bread, and desserts. Black Eyed Pea is MAHA. You got to check them out. When I was there, absolutely packed. Every single table packed. Hung out there. Great conversation with the folks that work there. It's my hometown restaurant. You walk in, and it's a little bit like Cheers. When people were walking in, they were all going, "Hey, Barney, great to see you." So I know you'll love the Black Eyed Pea too. Let them do the cooking for you and keep it in Colorado. Visit the Black Eyed Pea near you. So before that, I went by Danielle Jurinsky's re-election campaign. Now, Danielle is the city councilwoman. Okay, she's just a city councilwoman, and she's a mom and she's a business owner, and she is shot to international prominence. Okay, simply for wanting to do what's right in her community. And it hasn't been easy for her, okay? She early on, if you remember, we had her on the show in April. She was talking about the Venezuelan mass gatherings that were taking place in Target. And then she started to get word about gangs and apartments and TDA taking over particular apartment complexes that were being used by the city of Denver to push illegal immigrants out of the city and into Aurora. Okay? So she starts to get word about this. She sees a video of someone's door ring camera of these Venezuelan gangs walking back and forth, and works to get that person out of the apartment complex, works with police, has to go in armed herself. I mean, this is a mom on a mission. And she has raised this issue, along with John Fabricatori and some others, to international prominence about how Venezuelan gangs have been taking over these apartment complexes. All right? She's fighting for small businesses. It's not about Republican or Democrat with her. She is making a big impact, and she's doing it from a city council position. I went by and visited her re-election campaign on Saturday. Here's some of her speech.
You guys, I was built for this. I'm straight out of Aurora. You see this t-shirt right here? We're built differently over here. We are built differently in Aurora. I was born for this fight. We have to take this state back, guys, and I fully believe we're doing that out of Aurora. It's coming out of Aurora, period. This state will turn around, and it will be because of the actions of Aurora and the people of Aurora. But guys, we have to show them. We have to show the rest of this state who we are. I've created change. At the local city council level, I have a national media platform. I've represented this entire state. I've represented this entire country. I say what I want to say. I represent every single one of you. We're done. You're done messing with our businesses. You're done messing with our people. You are done. It's done. And there's no D or R in the middle of this. It is time to come together.
That's Danielle Jurinsky at a re-election launch party at JJ's on Saturday. I think she owns JJ's. I'm pretty sure she owns that restaurant. So she's a small business owner. She lives in Aurora. She's a mom. She's a city councilwoman. She's wearing the shirt that says straight out of Aurora, like it's the design straight out of Compton. That's the shirts that she's wearing. And she's like, I was born in Aurora. I was educated in Aurora. There is no one that's more Aurora than me. And there's a few things, Bill, I love about what she's doing. She is proving you don't have to have the biggest office, the most prominent office, to make a big impact. And leadership is about influence, right? You can oftentimes have the biggest leadership in the office. You don't have to have the biggest title in the office. And she's proving that that's what it takes is being on the ground, fighting for what's right, not giving up. And I also want to add, it wasn't just this Tren de Aragua gang that she was taking on, this transnational gang that murders their opponents. She took them on. She also took on a governor and a media establishment that tried to bury the stories about what was happening, to the point where the governor was even threatening to investigate her. Not the gangs, her, because she was blowing the whistle on all this stuff. So she's taken on the billionaire progressive class in Colorado. She's taken on the media establishment. She's taken on transnational violent gangs. And she's done it all from a city council position. It's remarkable. And people are going, well, we need Danielle in a bigger office, Yeah, maybe, but I'm not sure right now the demographics in Colorado would allow her to win, even someone this talented. They're putting people in, they're putting people like Jenna Griswold into office. Talent is not at the top of the list of what we're electing people based upon. So I'm not sure that this demographic would even elect somebody as talented as her, but she is utilizing this seat to make a big impact. It's impressive. I hope she wins re-election. What do you think, Bill?
Yeah, she is impressive. I hope she gets re-election as well. I think you're right. The person that has the highest title inside the office, not necessarily the most powerful. Case in point, Mark Crowley, who's running our video today, one of the most powerful people in the office, because he controls who gets the coffee. So he orders coffee. That is a tremendously powerful position inside of a radio station. I mean, that's almost like one step below being general manager. If you control the coffee supply to people in radio, that is enormous. The other one is, of course, Becky, office manager across the hall. She helps you figure out your vacation days, and she's in charge of the candy bowl. So again, two enormously powerful people inside of the office that do so many things that don't get credit for many times. But yeah, they've got tons and tons of power and really help the office go without necessarily having that big title. I like Danielle because she comes at it as a regular individual and as a regular person, a mom and a business owner. For me, when Danielle tries to be a politician, she's ineffective. She's most effective when she is genuine and she's herself. And that's what we heard in the speech there. That's where when she tries to play the politics, that's not her strong suit. And that's where I think I don't say missteps because I don't say that, but I don't think she is as effective a communicator or as good at getting things done than when she just spills it as if she's talking to you in the parking lot of the grocery store. And when she talks about the values that are important to the people that she employs, that are important to her friends and social circles, that are important to the community of Aurora, that's where she is at her best. And that's what makes her so difficult for Democrats to deal with, is because she is so genuine. She's not coming in.
That's the right word.
She's not coming in and she's not playing games. In many ways, she is playing poker, but all her cards are face up on the table. So she's telling you what hand she has, and she's not going to apologize for that. But she's going to say, this is what we're going to come to the table with, and this is why we're going to move things forward. And that is so different and refreshing inside of politics. One of the examples being, and we've had this go round and round a little bit, is Jared Polis, we have heard through the grapevine, is getting pressure to commute the sentence of Tina Peters.
Yeah.
But Polis is playing that very close to the vest. If it was Danielle Jurinsky that was getting that question, she would be very honest about it. She would say, yeah, I'm getting the pressure, and these are the things that we're looking at. Yes, okay, keep moving. Because that's how she has to deal with things in business. That's how she has to deal with things in her family life. That's how she, of course, has to deal with it. I think her son's like 5 right now.
Yeah.
You got to deal with a 5-year-old like that. You've got to, no, it's not time to have a cookie. We're eating dinner in 30 minutes. You can't have a cookie. I don't care if you're going to throw yourself on the floor right now and throw a tantrum. No cookie. That's it. You can't. You don't skirt the edges there. So I like.
So it was fun speech. Yeah. I had to cut and jump around because to your point, this is how Danielle Jurinsky gives a speech. She'll go, and I'm going to stand up for businesses like Pet Palace over there. Pet Janie, you're here. Do you remember the time we had to go up against it? And you're like, okay, she's going into like a very personal story, and then she'll come back to her point, and then she'll go, and we're going to stand up for parents. And Johnny, you were there. You were, and it's like the whole room was filled with people she had delivered for.
And the thing is,
so she's having these conversations with people. It's not a political speech. It's kind of fun.
The part that's interesting about that, and I think it really shows, again, her genuine nature, is you hear the politicians say, I remember the time that I talked to the woman who told me, and she's here in the crowd tonight. You're like, oh, that was a setup. But Danielle, it's a spur of the moment. Pet Palace, and oh my gosh, you're over there. Hey, look, and remember this? Yeah, it's not necessarily as scripted. She may have it down that she wants to talk about these businesses, but the flow of the conversation is so unique. And it is something that very few politicians have the ability to be that genuine at times. Now, I know people don't like him, but Obama on a national scale had that ability at times to communicate with an individual on a very genuine level. And that was a strength that he had. I think Biden early on in his career had it, later on in his career lost it. I think when you're going back, if you roll the clock back 20 years ago, Biden, I think, is very good on that interpersonal type of communication, a small group communication. Lost it later on, in part because of just things slipping upstairs. But Danielle has it in spades. She has the ability to relate to you on a one-on-one basis because she doesn't, as they say in literary terms, she doesn't put on airs. She's not coming to you being disingenuous about it.
The other thing that was fun is that it was a very diverse audience.
Oh, I bet.
So compared to two other audiences that you might typically see, one, a traditional Republican audience, which would be a little bit older and white.
Monochromatic.
And the other audience, I don't know if you saw this, but John Hickenlooper took a picture of his audience.
No, I didn't.
No one's smiling in the picture. It is so funny.
Well,
everybody, awful. And there's one lady that looks particularly very confused. I'll put this on X the other day, but nobody's smiling. They're all old and white too. But Danielle's audience, there's one point where they're going, "Soul Sister!" like yelling at her while she's giving a speech, and she's going back and recognizing her constituents as well. And she goes, "Look, we didn't have to do a mandatory DEI meeting. We just served people, and we delivered for people, and I've got Black constituents that want to vote for me, Hispanic constituents that want to vote for me, white constituents. I just solve people's problems. That's all I do." And she had a very diverse turnout. It was very cool to see.
Oh, that's great.
She's going to make the leap at some point. And I posted the speech on X yesterday, and nearly 1,000 likes already. I did it like 10 o'clock last night.
Wow, that's wonderful.
So it is, she's very popular. She'll make the leap to a bigger stage, and everyone says, please run for governor. We need her to run for our office. She'll get there. But right now she's delivering. And this is a message I want to send to other conservatives out there, okay? I know it's very hard to live in Colorado right now, especially if you want to be in some form of civic service. You want to get elected to office, okay? The options out there are very small. And many of us want to shoot for that, statewide opportunity, state treasurer and governor and senator or member of Congress. And those are good options. We need people to run for them, okay? But Danielle has proved you can have an international impact, a global impact in a city council position, okay? It doesn't have to be as big. So conservatives, start and look for those options to make an impact where you're at. the world will recognize it. And it's that old kind of saying that, you build a better mousetrap and the world will beat a path to your door. If you're a talented political leader, no matter what position you're in, the world will find you because you're going to be making a difference. So I hope to see more conservatives running for city council, county commissioner, those types of things.
Yeah, the other part that I would say is that I would push back at times on the assumption that conservatives can't win in Colorado because Aurora proves them wrong. But being the color by numbers conservative isn't going to work. Danielle doesn't fit inside the regular casting mold of who a conservative candidate would be. If you would bring up some of the speeches, if you would bring up some of the things that she's done, if you would bring up some of her social media, you wouldn't sit there and say, this is the person that gets all the bona fide recommendations from anyone inside of the conservative movement, in my opinion, because she is so genuine at times. And I think that's the message, that rather than coming to the voters as a conservative politician, come to them as a neighbor, as a friend who also has conservative values. That's what we see on the Aurora City Council. You run through those, you get Steve the Beard. I mean, when you sit down and talk to him, he comes to you not as a politician, but as a person. And I think that is part of where things fail. I also think that's where some of the Democrats fail as well, because they come not as an individual, not as a person, but as a politician. Timmy Hernandez, rather than coming into, in my opinion, rather than walking into the legislature as a teacher who has concerns, he came into the legislature as an activist, and he wanted to cultivate an activist image. That was rejected by the Democrats.
Yep.
They threw him out of the primary process. So that tells you that idea, I think, in Colorado, that there still is this libertarian bend inside of the electorate, regardless of political policy and priority, that we still have this individualism. And I believe the voters will respect that more often than not. There are some pockets, both conservative and liberal, that are difficult to get elected to just because of some of the demographics and the number of people that are going to make choices based on R's and D's. But I think that the Republicans can be better served by finding people that come to the table being a genuine person. Gabe Evans, I believe, is another fantastic example of someone who comes in and delivers it being a genuine person. There are other examples we can look at, people that have won both statewide and locally. And I think that's a problem the Democrats are running into right now. I think some of their people that are more that are more steeped in the political ease are going to have problems going forward. I think they're going to have some issues.
I want people to take note that Bill Thorpe is supporting, or at least appreciates, the leadership of Danielle Jurinsky and Gabe Evans. What a progressive you are.
Yeah, absolutely. I do. Again, I'm agnostic in my political parties. Yeah, I will look at individuals a hell of a lot more. I've spent over 2 decades choosing my vote based on the individual rather than the party. This is not new to me. This is important to me. And it's the only way that I could square the circle. When if people haven't heard before, never have I ever been a Democrat. I was a Republican. And then I felt the party had ostracized me. The party had decided that things that I believed in, things that I thought were important, were no longer salient to that political movement. And so I felt pushed out of the tent. I didn't go and choose to be unaffiliated by my own volition. I felt I was pushed out and told that my belief system no longer applied to the party. And that was more than 20 years ago. So I am, as far as political parties, I'm very, very agnostic on this one.
A good sign that Danielle Jurinsky and Gabe Evans are doing it right. So
yeah, absolutely.
Love to hear from you. Danielle Jurinsky up for re-election. Do you support the work that she's doing? And by the way, I want to point this out. The entire progressive universe is going to come down on her. Okay?
Yeah, they will.
Not because they don't like what she's doing, but because they want to stop her now. Okay, they want to get her to lose this race and become despaired and not run for office anymore. Same thing they tried to do with Heidi Ganahl. knowing that Heidi was talented enough and had the resources to shoot statewide. They tried everything to do to stop her at the regent level. We're not successful there. They'll try to do the same thing to Danielle Jurinsky. So do you live in the same area that Danielle Jurinsky represents? Would love to hear from you. Would you support her again? Do you think she's doing great work? Phone lines are open, 303-696-1971, or text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line, 720-819-5115. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. The Heritage Foundation has been looking into Joe Biden's signatures and noticing a lot of them were done via auto pen. Here's Fox reporting the majority of the official documents signed by President Joe Biden allegedly used the same auto pen signature, reinvigorating concerns over the former president's mental acuity and if he actually ordered the signature of relevant legal documents. A report published by an arm of the Heritage Foundation found whoever controlled the auto pen controlled the presidency. The Oversight Project, which is an initiative within the Conservative Heritage Foundation that investigates the government to bolster transparency. We gathered every document we could find with Biden's signature over the course of his presidency. All used the same auto pen signature, except for the announcement that the former president was dropping out of the race last year. And then they show some pictures of it. Auto pen signatures are ones that are automatically produced by a machine as opposed to an authentic handwritten signature. The Oversight Project posted 3 examples showing Biden's signature, including 2 executive orders and the president's announcement that he was bowing out of the 2024 presidential race. The signature on the 2 executive orders, one of which was signed in 2022 and the other in 2024, showed the same signature that included what appeared to be a line followed by R. Biden Jr. Biden's signature on the document announcing his departure from the 2024 race varied from the other 2 posted by the Oversight Project, showing a signature that wasn't as clear as the executive orders. Now, this raises a lot of questions for me, but I think it confirms what a lot of us believed, that Joe Biden was not in control of his presidency. Bill, is this a confirmation that somebody else was running the White House in your mind?
Nope, not at all. No. Because what we have here is auto pen signatures and nothing. But Heritage Foundation has jumped to a conclusion. They have no other information.
No other information
showing.
The guy was totally out of it. He could hardly answer questions in a discussion. The Attorney General wasn't going to prosecute him because he was so out of it.
Nope, that's
and then
that's
the
incorrect.
whole national
That's
country
incorrect.
Saw that he couldn't even debate.
Nope,
so there's no other evidence.
That's completely incorrect about what the attorney said, the special prosecutor. Special prosecutor said that it was not going to be able to prosecute based on 2 things. 1, that he was sympathetic based on memory failures. 2, because of lack of willful retention.
Memory failures.
Lack of willful retention. Yes, I know.
Memory failures. That's it.
Yeah.
That's not another.
Yeah.
That's
memory failures from 20 or 30 years ago based on documents and when they were procured and some other stuff. That's difficult to prove. Malice and intent.
Was it
inside
20 or
of a court
30 years
game.
ago? This is when he was vice president.
No, but again, number of years ago, when the issue was he vice president, was it senator who has the issues to do it? So again, that's part of it. So he wasn't sympathetic. It wasn't that he is such an adult old man that he sits there and dribbles food down his shirt. That wasn't the premise at all. But the issue being that Heritage is going to have to show us some information, any information at all, that someone else was making the decisions. The fact that they used auto pen doesn't show, in my mind, anybody else making an affirmative or negative choice based on any of those decisions. You're just going to have to show those.
I want to point out, too, that our current president is very happy to sign all these himself in person for everybody else to see. It's not an auto pen taking place there. We've got to get to You Choose the News, but an interesting story. I think more is going to come out on who really ran Biden's White House. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
All right, Bill, it's an early Monday morning and people got hungover from that daylight savings. Let's give the people what they want.
It's no fun when you feel hungover and you didn't even do the hard work to get there. Yeah, that's what Monday's going to be like today. It is time for You Choose the News, America's favorite fake radio news game show. I spent moments this morning scouring the interwebs to find really dumb stories about us humans, to give them even more ridiculous headlines so that we can play this fake radio news game show with you. Why? Because nobody in charge wakes up for another 8 minutes. And we're going to take full advantage of being left unsupervised. No, for you parents, yes, when you go out of town and your teenagers say, yeah, I promise, nothing's going to happen. Don't believe them. Alrighty, here we go. Gentlemen, Blake Olson joining us from the newsroom. Jeff Hunt in the studio. Your headline, sir. Headline number 1, insect fights back. Headline number 2, border seizures increasing. Headline number 3, it's your dog's fault. And headline number 4, perfect employees. Mr. Hunt, your choice.
Let's start with the insects fighting back.
Yes, insects fighting back. Here we are traveling to Detroit. An elderly man has injured himself in his attempt to kill a cockroach. The incident occurred recently when an unnamed man who is in a wheelchair told police that he was trying to kill a cockroach he found at his house by throwing a shoe at it. But the shoe wasn't really heavy enough, he thought, to land on the cockroach and kill him. So he needed to add some weight to that shoe, some heft, something that'll go poof when it hits him. He obviously decided his firearm was the best choice. So yes, he put his gun inside the shoe, threw the shoe containing the firearm across the room. He did strike the cockroach, and then the gun went off and shot himself in the foot. Yes, he put his gun in a shoe and threw it across
Darwin
the
Award
room
right there.
and then shot himself. Yeah, good job there.
Barney.
I know. Exactly, Barney Fife. Alrighty, Blake Olson in the news department, sir. Border seizures increasing. It's your dog's fault or perfect employees?
It's your dog's fault.
Yeah, it's obviously your dog's fault. If you're carrying around a bit of extra weight, maybe like a Labrador retriever, the science hippies believe they have found a genetic source of that fat. It may be biologically hardwired into you. They have found the building blocks of a biological code that produces the urge to overeat inside of Labradors. That's why they cannot self-regulate. You leave food out for a Labrador, it will continue to eat all the time. It has no ability to say, ugh, I'm full. Just like some of us, especially when you get me in front of those Girl Scout cookies. Oh, my God. I mean, an entire sleeve of Thin Mints right down my throat like a snake. So
here.
That's the thing, is that owners of slim dogs, they want to remind you, are not necessarily morally superior. If you just have a dog that's a little slim, sometimes it actually is the genetics inside. The cool thing in this is they believe they've identified this biological code, and it also exists in us humans. So they're going to start experimenting on ways to turn it off or have us regulate, other than saying, don't have another cookie. That's always my choice. Alrighty. Now, Mr. Hunt, your final choice this morning. Border seizures increasing or perfect employees?
Perfect employees,
Yeah,
please.
perfect employees. An HR manager in Shanghai managed to defraud his company of millions upon millions of dollars by inventing fake employees. He joined the technology company in 2014. He discovered a glaring vulnerability in payroll, especially hiring and payroll approvals that were under his control. Over the next 8 years, he fabricated 22 fake employees, used generic Chinese names, and then set up bank accounts for them and funneled the money directly into his bank account. For years, his scheme went unnoticed until late 2022, when someone in the finance department noted a particular detail about one employee who had perfect attendance for years, yet nobody in the office had any idea who they were. They went around and said, hey, have you seen Zhao today? Zhao who? So yeah, no one knew. And that's when the plot was uncovered. Yes, that's it. That's the end of You Choose the News.
We
Back
need
to you,
Doge everywhere, apparently. We'll get into that and more in the 7 o'clock hour. We have Richard Holtorf and Danielle Neuschwanger joining us. They want to lead the Colorado Republican Party. What do you think? You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
It is 7 a.m. in the Mile High City on this Monday, March 10th, 2025. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show. News Talk 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights and hottest takes from the right, left, and center. Congratulations. You just woke up in the greatest country in history. Donald Trump's your president. You're a doer out there making it happen, taking those kids to school, going to work, improving your communities. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Jeff and Bill Show. Let's dive into the issues that matter most to you right here, right now. Coming up after news and comment with Blake Olson, Richard Holtworth, and Danielle Neuschwanger joining us. They're teaming up in an effort to become the new leaders, the chair and vice chair of the Colorado Republican Party. They join a field that includes Britta Horn, Darcy Shannon, and Lori Sane, and others. We'll hear how they believe they can best lead the Colorado Republican Party moving forward, as Dave Williams is not running for another term as chairman of the Colorado GOP. But now, let's check in with news and comment. Blake Olson.
Blake Olson.
Blake Olson, news and comment.
All right, thanks a lot, Jeff and Billy. 36 and mostly cloudy in Denver. Expecting a high of 69 today. The 7-10 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story.
No, he's done a great job. And he's paying a price for it. You know, I mean,
he said he
didn't
had
need
death
this.
threats.
He's paying a price for it, I guess. I don't know. He actually is a real patriot. This is something that's really not good for him, and yet he's doing it. But he's opened a lot of
The president talking about Elon and Doge on Fox News over the weekend, and Marco Rubio on X this morning saying that we are officially canceling 83% of the programs at USAID. The 5,200 contracts that are canceled spent tens of billions of dollars of taxpayers' money. DJT sending a warning that tariffs on goods from Mexico and Canada could go up further. The president said tariffs could increase, insisting that he's committed to stopping the U.S. from being ripped off.
Nobody has been tougher on Russia than Donald Trump.
U.S. and Ukrainian officials are planning to hold peace talks in Saudi Arabia this week. 47's special envoy, led by Steve Witkoff, says representatives of both countries will work to create a framework for an initial ceasefire and a peace agreement with Russia. Sunday, the president talking about Russia on Fox.
Nobody. And they know that. They know that. Just look at the things I just told you. The pipeline, I stopped it. The biggest job they've ever done was the pipeline, Nord Stream 2. Nobody ever heard of it until I came along. They were building it happily. They were going to supply Germany and everybody else all over Europe. And what did I do? I stopped it. The biggest economic job they've ever had, I stopped it. Biden got in. On the second day, he approved it. He said, let it go forward. It was totally stopped. Just that one thing alone tells you everything.
The continuing resolution will be discussed all day and night today and throughout the week. Chip Roy of Texas and conservatives have a game plan to support it.
Now, we don't have it all. So we need to keep the lights on. We need Elon to keep doing his work at Doge. We need all of that great team to deliver. And then we can insert that into appropriations this summer for FY26. Basically, freezing spending is always a good conservative win. We don't love the policies, right? That wouldn't be our normal choice. But now we have President Trump and his great team deciding how these policies are implemented. So we want to give them the flexibility to do the job.
The NASDAQ is planning to introduce 24-hour trading as demand grows globally for U.S. stocks. The plan needs approval along with coordination from other major players in the industry. It's expected the NASDAQ Stock Exchange will go to 24-hour trading during the week in the second half of next year. Bernie Sanders had the transgender singer of Against Me, I guess that's the name of the group, sing a song that says, quote, does your God have a big fat DI, and you know the rest, because it feels like he's effing me, and then it gets even worse and disgusting after that, talking about Easter Sunday. And this is who they are, a party of hate and evil. It was a Bernie rally, evidently. I'm sure he'll walk it back and say that he didn't know anything about it and what the guy was going to sing, but that was disgusting on stage. And then there's Michael Steele and another bozo on messy NBC, literally just a clown show.
On Thursday, a SpaceX Starship rocket exploded just minutes into its test flight. The FAA temporarily stopped air traffic around Miami, Fort Lauderdale, West Palm Beach, and Orlando. It is the second consecutive Starship test flight from Elon Musk's company to end with destruction. All I could think about was, I can't sing.
No, please don't. That's good. That's good. We got it. My suggestion for Elon, his response to all of this was rockets are hard. And Mr. Musk, if they're so hard, why don't you go back to your day job and work that out and leave those of us who do government to do government? Because
thank you.
It is, oh my gosh. These second-tier people trying to critique a first-tier guy.
Right. So true.
I mean, they've never built anything near what this guy has built, and then they sit there and get to judge him on, a challenge that they're facing.
They've never built a Pinewood Derby car, as Billy was talking about.
There's a point of information, though, that Elon didn't build those rockets, nor did he build the cars.
Well, he made it happen somehow, some way.
I mean, money, sure, he wrote the checks. Yay.
Well, how did he make the money?
Through other investments and things. But again, the idea that he didn't make
some intelligence.
Maybe. Again, we've talked about ideas of monkeys throwing darts at boards sometimes do better than investments. There was a study a couple of years ago about a goldfish doing better stock predictions than some of the people on
right. But I mean, come on. They sit there and they judge and laugh. In that woman's particular case, laugh and mock.
Well,
a guy like I've built model rockets. The idea I could get anything close to what Elon Musk and his team have built,
but
it's just remarkable.
But it's not Elon's design. He hasn't done any of the math. He employed very smart people. But the idea that it's his rocket, he hasn't designed a thing. He didn't build a thing. It's not. And again, it is his company. And I understand what they're saying. And the problem is that if you're an investor in Tesla right now, or you're a fan of SpaceX or some of the other things, you have to understand that right now there are some people that are cheering for you to fail. I'm not saying that's a good thing or a bad
100%.
thing.
100%. That's exactly what they're doing.
If you are a person that is invested in somewhere like SpaceX or you're invested in somewhere like Tesla, there is a valid concern when your CEO is involved in doing something else that seems to be taking up 120 hours a week of his time. That's a valid concern. And I think that's fair. I don't agree with the critique those people were saying towards Elon, going, oh, why don't you go back? But the core, the kernel, is true. Why are you allowing somebody else to run your companies? Are you really that necessary as a CEO? If I'm a Tesla shareholder, I would be pissed right now because he's not there.
That's a fair critique, but when Michael Steele and the rest of them, they're not doing that.
No, they're not.
That is cheering to fail based upon political differences.
They took what is a valid complaint, which is why isn't Elon running his companies? Where if you're a shareholder and Elon is drawing an enormous salary at Tesla's the only publicly traded company. If he's drawing this enormous salary, where is he? Because he's obviously consumed with another job.
And stock markets will reflect that.
Yeah, well, they are right now.
Price of it.
Oh, they are right now. The stock's down 40%.
But Michael Steele, goodness, what has that guy ever achieved in his life? I'm sorry. I mean, and he was the chairman of our party, and that guy, either was always a progressive or has tacked to the left in order to keep, some form of salary because he didn't achieve anything as the chairman of the Republican Party.
Yes, I agree. I mean, what a fraud. I mean, and then so many conservatives and Republicans gave him the benefit of the doubt and tried to support him, and then he does that. I got to look into Elon. I just started, following him a year ago, honestly. I just kind of, but I hear all these things from Billy.
Not his company Tesla. He didn't found it. The only reason he refers to himself as a founder is because of a law case, is because he was financially he was pushing out.
He built that thing.
No, he didn't.
It was not anywhere near where it was when he took ownership of it.
In part,
not
yes.
even
In part,
close.
no. But the issue being that he's not a founder. He didn't create it. There was,
Well,
I've heard that over now. I don't have the guys' names, but there were two other guys that
he
did.
No, he didn't.
He's really good at marketing.
And
no,
it was
he didn't.
nowhere
He didn't
near
create Tesla. He didn't.
Where
Those
it is
aren't
today
his
is the
cars.
result of his leadership, 100%.
In part, we can make that argument, yes, but he didn't create it. He wasn't there. He's not a founder. He had to go through a lawsuit.
Why is that particular phrase so important?
Because
he's built it where it is. Everybody knows he bought Tesla.
Because he uses it, he traffics in it, and he filed a lawsuit that was part of a settlement in order to get the title. So I feel it is fair to point out that he calls himself a founder, but the only reason he gets that title is because of a settlement between the two guys that actually founded the company. That's just fair to do. He refers to himself being a founder all the time, and I think that's fair.
Richard and Danielle here.
All right, 34 in Parker, 35 in Westminster, 36 in Denver. Thunder over the Nuggets and UNC over Weber State to advance to the semis in the Big Sky Conference tournament. Tuesday, their next game. Jeff and Billy continue.
Nothing is possible when we work together as a team.
Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
All right, joining the Jeff and Bill Show, we've had Britta Horn on, we've had Darcy Shanning on, and now joining us to make their pitch to be leaders of the Colorado Republican Party, Richard Holtorf and Danielle Neuschwanger. Good morning, Richard. Good morning, Danielle. Thanks for joining the Jeff and Bill Show.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
All right, we'll start with the very simple, basic question. Why are you two the best to move the Colorado Republican Party into its next chapter?
Well, thank you very much for inviting us onto the program. I'm going to start out with something that we have forgotten and the leadership has failed in the last 2 years. Jeff, the state executive committee and the chairman work for the state central committee. The state central committee works for the county executive committees. It's supposed to be a grassroots, bottom-up process that is an inverted pyramid. The most important person in Washington, I'm the Washington County Republican chair in Washington County, are the precinct members, the precinct caucus members. And then that funnels up to the precinct chair. And then that goes up to the county executive committee. The county executive committee works for all those precincts. And that goes all the way to the top. So the state party chair works for everybody in the state. Right now, we have a top-down system. It's a failed system. We have somebody that's leading that has been trying to force and push and change and do things from the top down, almost like a dictator. When Danielle and I take over the state party, her working with me, we are going to invert that. It is going to go back to the core premise of how this party is to be run. The state party chair isn't going to demand anything from a county. It's going to work for the counties. The 64 counties in Colorado deserve better. Now, here's another thing under my senior leadership that people need to understand. Our primary mission is to elect statewide Republicans, both in statewide races, of which we have 5. And right now there are 0 Republicans elected to any of them: governor, lieutenant governor, treasurer, attorney general, secretary of state. And we still have minorities in the state house and the state senate, of which I served for 5 years. And I felt the pain of not having the Republicans at my side, shoulder to shoulder, enough of them to change public policy. We can sit here and complain and cry about what's going on in the state of Colorado, but until we elect more Republicans, and most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, I'm about ready to turn this over to Danielle. Most importantly is if we don't have a winning message and a brand for Colorado, if we can't reconcile our differences, reconstruct our party, and show the Colorado electorate, which over 55% are unaffiliated independent voters, and they believe in us, if we don't have that brand and that message, we don't win, and we get the status quo. There is no leader, there is no candidate right now that I know of that has the vision that we have, that has the strategic plan that we have. And we can't get into all the details because we know the other people that are out there will steal our plan because it's so good. They will steal it, and all of a sudden it will become a part of their platform. And they don't understand the plan implicitly. So I'm going to turn this over to Danielle because I'm really excited to serve Colorado. And I'm a selfless servant. I don't need the job. I don't need the money. Some of them need the job. Some of them desperately want a job because they need the money. And they're grifters. They're profiteers. They're people that want to take from politics. I want to give back. And so, Danielle, I'll give it over to you.
Thanks, Richard. I think right now the Republican Party is at a crucial point where we can become the underdogs. And that's really the story of the Republican Party and how we kind of, we've got 4 congressional seats, and that's great because we just took back CD8. In order for us to be the underdogs, you kind of have to have that comeback kid story. And for me, I left the party because I was frustrated and because there were so many things that were out of my control that I just didn't have the power to change. And I know a lot of people feel that same way. They've become disenfranchised with the messaging of the GOP. And so becoming the underdog story with this new model that we have, in this vision that we have for Colorado, I think a lot of people who've left the party are going to want to come back. They're going to want to be that comeback kid. And they're not just going to put that R behind their name. I think they're going to get very excited about the leadership plan that we have in place. And they're going to want to get involved at the local levels and become a precinct chairperson. And that's what's really exciting for me. So I'm just ready to get in there and do the work and be a great team leader with Richard.
We're talking with Richard Holtworth and Danielle Neuschwanger. They're running for chair and vice chair of the Colorado Republican Party. All right, let's dive into some questions here. Are you going to continue to endorse in primaries?
So we should not, as a state party, putting our hand on the scale of candidates. Jeff, you and I have talked about this last year in excruciating detail. It is the electorate's job to decide who they want to elect. It's not states' party's job to do that. And everybody needs a chance. Every candidate that wants to run for office as a Republican needs a chance to present their platform to the electorate in their district, in their county, across the state. And we need to let everybody do that. We need to lift up everybody and empower everybody and let the voters decide. It's the voters who we work for. Going back to, some people talk about grassroots movements. But when a grassroots movement is pushed from the top down and forced down your throat, like trying to put a golf ball through a garden hose, that's not a grassroots movement. A grassroots movement is a pluralistic movement that involves everybody. And it's the electorate's job, not party bosses, not people behind closed doors, and not people that are trying to tip the scale. So no, I'm not in support of that.
Let's talk open primaries versus closed primaries. The Colorado Republican Party has sued in an effort to close the open primaries. An open primary is where someone that's unaffiliated can vote in the Republican primary. Do you support unaffiliateds being able to vote in the Republican Party primary?
So let's back up to what just happened, Jeff. We just reorganized the entire state of Colorado. Every county, all 64 counties, have, in many cases, new chairs or vice chairs, new secretary-treasurers, new precinct chairs, a whole new list of folks that are now representing the grassroots of the Republican Party. It is their choice to decide. It's not the chairman's choice. It's not my choice. I work for the people. I work for those delegates on the state central committee. So what we will have to do, we will have to vote. The plurality and will of the people must come forward. So it's going to be their choice. We'll put it up to a vote. And this time when we vote, unlike last time at the state assembly, we will make sure we have a quorum. We will make sure everybody is credentialed. And the final credential report will be given. Then we will vote. The people, the will of the people will be heard. If the state central committee and all the counties want that, then we will make sure they get what they want, because that's who we work for.
We're talking.
So it's the people that decide.
Talking with Richard Holtworth and Danielle Neuschwanger. They're seeking to be chair and vice chair of the Colorado Republican Party moving forward. This decision is going to be made in just a few weeks at the end of March. Now, Danielle, you didn't just withdraw from the Colorado Republican Party. You actively worked against the Colorado Republican Party when Heidi Ganahl was running for governor as a third-party candidate. Can Republicans trust you to be loyal to the Colorado Republican Party?
Yeah, looking back 2020 hindsight, I wish I had not done that, because I can see where those actions caused the division in the party. And, those are actions that we have to be accountable for. A lot of people don't know that we actually worked with the collective of the third-party candidates before the election to actually drop out and endorse Heidi Ganahl. We wanted to get Jared Polis out of office. We all believed in that same mission. Unfortunately, the previous chair at that time had made some disparaging comments about third-party candidates before that could happen, and kind of blew that up. So I did work with Heidi. We did do some debate prep with her before the election. And so, I do support her as a person. I think she's a great voice for Colorado. But I think, looking back and looking what's happened in the last 2 years, we have had failures on my part, failures on the leadership part. And we just need to be accountable for those, just apologize for those, learn from those mistakes, and move forward. We have a forward trajectory for the Colorado Republican Party. No one is going to be perfect, but we can't keep making the same mistakes. We can't keep contributing to the circular firing squad. So I'm ready to, own up for my part in that. I'm ready for the current leadership to own up for their part in that. And I'm ready to move forward and start winning in 2026.
And I want to speak a little bit on that. A lot of people have left the Republican Party because they're so frustrated. A lot of people have done things. And part of this reconciliation, Colorado, is, mistakes of the past don't predicate and predict actions of the future. And there's a lot of patriots out there. There's a lot of red-blooded Americans that want the Republican Party to succeed. We want to build a winning message and platform that, oh, by the way, the Colorado electorate will embrace. And let's remember, the Colorado electorate, 55% of the Colorado electorate are unaffiliated and independent voters. They have left either the Democrat or the Republican Party, and they sit in the middle. If we have a winning brand, if we have a winning message, if we stop the infighting, if we rebuild our party, we have to reconcile and reconstruct and rebuild our party and take it in a new direction, then we can win, because it's all about winning. The majority holds the levers of power. They decide public policy. We can debate policy all day long. We can say we want this and we want that. And all we are is making noise, because we can't change anything until we win seats, till we build the capacity to make Colorado Republicans relevant. I'm tired of being wallpaper. I'm tired of being in zone defense at the state capitol, watching my colleagues, and I did it for 5 years. Stonewall, filibuster, try to stop, do everything we can to stop the radical, progressive left Democrat machine that is steamrolling Colorado policy and politics. And we're seeing it this session. So we have to go back to strategy. We have to elect people. We have to build capacity statewide in the Gold Dome. And if we don't understand that, then we're going to get more of the same, and we will continue to be a minority and probably move towards a super minority. I don't think people understand that.
We're talking with Richard Holtorf and Danielle Neuschwanger. They're seeking to be chair and vice chair of the Colorado Republican Party. All right, let's talk basic blocking and tackling. I worked for the state party at one point. It's about voter registration. It's about voter turnout. It's about fundraising. It's about coalition development, candidate recruitment. It's a very basic sports kind of head coach operation in order to get more Republicans elected. You mentioned you have a plan, but you aren't quite ready to reveal it. When do you plan to reveal your plan, and what is it going to look like? How are you going to help Republicans do the very basic blocking and tackling that's necessary to get more Republicans elected?
So I'm going to let Danielle weigh in on this a little bit, but I'm going to start with this. We have an idea when we talk about Reconstruction to change the way the party executive committee and the way we do politics as Republicans. We want to expand capacity. We want to allow for the West Slope to be fully recognized and have a team of people there at the state party level that's going to help them do all the things that you just said. On the Eastern Plains, we're going to build capacity in that area. We're actually going to work in regions and areas. I don't want to get too deep into it. I'm going to pass it off to Danielle, because what happens, we'll present all these great ideas, and all of a sudden, everybody that's running against me, and the one person I think that's running against Danielle, who's the status quo, and going to try to do the same thing they've been doing for the last 2 years, I would presume, even though they might say differently, they're not going to have this vision. And we don't want to let people steal our vision. So, Danielle, talk about how we're going to present this to the State Central Committee and the Colorado Republicans across the state.
Well, I think what we've been seeing is that every candidate wants to be the quarterback, right? But a quarterback without a team is just a kid playing catch by himself. And so what we're looking at doing is we have a playbook that is going to just set up Colorado for success, because the messaging across Colorado is not consistent, right? The voices on the Western Slope are different from the Eastern Plains, and they're both significantly different from Denver Metro. So how do we match consistent messaging to meet voters where they're at? We're not in college campuses. We're not in high schools. We're not on the 16th Street Mall talking to conservatives. So we have a plan and a mission, I'm just going to call it our playbook, where we are going to start reaching the four corners of the state with consistent strategic messaging that is going to get voters engaged. And again, those voters are going to want to come to the Republican Party because they're going to be excited about the new mission, vision, and values from the GOP.
And to piggyback off of that, Colorado Republicans have a unique opportunity right now. And that opportunity is we can and we are now in front of and the party of the people. We have demonstrated that. Jeff, we have demonstrated that we can be that and we can have that role. But we have a message. We have to have a message and a brand that surrounds that. We have to say we want to make your lives easier. We want to support the things that you want, recreation and open space. We want inflation to go down. We want your property tax to go down. And if we are given the levers of power, we can do that for you, Colorado. There are ways we can do that the Democrats have denied. That's one of the biggest things we need to leverage. The Democrats and colleagues of mine are scared to death for me to get into state party chairmanship because they know that I'm a threat to them. I've had Democrats in Boulder that I served with that are in very high levels say, Colorado, keep doing what you're doing. They've told me in confidence that Dave Williams is the best thing that ever happened to Democrats in Colorado because we watch you guys fight and roil and stab each other in the back, and you give us all the ammunition we need. When you pit one candidate against another candidate, you give us all the ammunition we need to win that race. We need to stop that, and we're going to stop that. Day one under my leadership, all of that stops. We know, and I know, that the enemy is the progressive, left, woke Democrats in Colorado that are ruining this state, that want transgender LGBT grooming of children across our public schools. That's terribly dangerous. Let's remember who Colorado Republicans want to stand up against and stand up for. Our children. Okay, innocent children. Let's remember that we want families, young families, and I have 5 daughters, and many of them are young families just starting out. We want them to have a chance. We don't want them to be crushed by high insurance costs, property taxes, cost of living. We want to help them. We have a unique ability right now, if we have the right brand and message, to reach out to those people and resonate with them.
Now, Richard Holtorf and Danielle Newswing are joining us here on the Jeff and Bill Show, candidates for GOP leadership. Let's talk about that message just for a second. Mr. Holtorf, both you and Danielle have talked about going back to the grassroots and getting grassroots involved. In recent memory, that was the message behind Dave Williams and his campaign. It was the blue bloods, the high thinkers, the people with the pointy heads were in charge, and they didn't know what to do. And we were finally going to return the party back to the grassroots, the people that understood what Republicans really want. Why is your plan different than the same grassroots initiative that Dave Williams had just a couple of years ago?
And that's a very good question. I will tell you that right now, you have to ask yourself, is the grassroots running the party? And what fraction or part of the grassroots are running the party? And is that a plurality of all Republicans across the state? And have people been marginalized? Have people been left out? If, in fact, we had this pointy-headed grassroots movement that you speak of, would not our party be growing? Would we not have more registered Republicans by exponential measure? Would we not have people wanting to willingly support through their time and treasure to the party?
Well, let me stop you there, because I think you may have misunderstood me, Mr. Holtorf, that I'm talking that when I talked about pointy heads, I was making a tongue-in-cheek reference to Christy Burton Brown and the people that ran the party at that point. When Dave Williams came into power, his movement was, we're returning the party back to the grassroots. We're going back to the grassroots. We're going to go back to what people really believe. That was his message. And I'm hearing the same message with respect from you and Danielle. Return the party back to the grassroots. Get the people really involved. I can't see more than a couple of shades of beige and difference between what Dave Williams was saying prior to getting elected state party chair to what you are saying now with respect. It seems to me to be the same examples, the same ideas that Dave Williams ran on. Why is it different?
I'll take this, Richard.
Go ahead.
So I think from what we've seen with Dave Williams it is top-down leadership, so it has become a dictator-style leadership. And although I think he meant well when he got elected and he had that vision of promoting grassroots, he didn't have a plan to implement boots on the ground. And so it did become top-down dictatorship versus bottom-up leadership. And so our plan actually takes a more strategic look at how to empower the counties, how to provide them more local and strategic support, how to get them better fundraising, how to support our candidates, get the most media exposure for those candidates, and put the power back at the county level. Our leadership team is not, seeking this position for self-promotion, which is something that has been historically utilized by this position. We saw that with Ken Buck, we saw that with Christy Burton Brown, Priscilla Ron, and of course, most notoriously, we saw that with Dave Williams using that to launch his Congressional District 5 candidacy. What we are truly striving for is to be a leadership team that builds our party up from boots on the ground coalition. And we have a model that's going to do that I think over the next couple of weeks is going to really excite you. And that's really going to be the difference. We don't want to be top-down dictators. We really do want to empower the people at the local levels, our precinct chairs, and do everything we can to make them the superheroes of the Colorado Republican Party.
That's Danielle Newswing. She is running with Richard Holtorf, who's running for the candidates for GOP leadership, joining the Jeff and Bill Show. Sorry to interrupt there. Danielle, I want to follow up. When you're talking about party unity, when you're talking about getting everybody rowing in the same direction, help me square the circle with when you were running for governor and you didn't win the primary, you decided the best choice was not for party unity, but to run against the party. Why should someone put you in a position of leadership when the last time that you ran for public office and you weren't voted in through the primary by the constituents, you left the party? Why is that not going to be an example of your leadership in the future?
I think Richard Holtorf already hit on this. The sins of your past don't mark the successes of your future. And I'm so thankful for the members of our party who have kept in touch with me the last couple of years and have taken the time to really work on me as an individual, wise me up a little bit, share their wisdom and experience with me. Again, this is a decision that I have to be accountable for, right? Like I made a very bad judgment call that caused division in the party. And that division has now been perpetuated into that circular firing squad. So instead of coming back and trying to promote that circular firing squad, I think it's time for healing. And again, every underdog story needs a comeback kid, right? We see this in all the big Hollywood movies. That's the historical movie line. I'm accountable for all of my decisions, right? And I can tell you that was a bad decision. It hurt the party, and I own that. But what I want to do moving forward is take those experiences, just like the many Americans who walked away from the Republican Party, and come back and actually promote a pathway forward and forge that forward. So I can't tell you to trust me on day one. That's something I'm going to have to earn, and I just hope that you guys give me the opportunity to show you what I'm made of.
Now, the thing that I push back on that, I got a question about that, Danielle, because you had said in a previous conversation about absolutely wanting to support the party's nominee. And then when the party's nominee wasn't you didn't make that decision. And so when we're talking about decisions that are made, I think, does that call into question your decision making? That the idea that if it's not going your way, we saw with Dave Williams, he picked winners and losers inside of the primary. If it happens like with Dave did, where the majority of the people that you wanted to win, either publicly or privately, won or not, does that color your decision-making capabilities? Because last time that you were on the losing side of things, you took your ball and went home and went and played with a different group of people.
So I think that there's more towards this story than people actually realize, but it's not the time to continue to air out, our dirty laundry. I think we've had enough of that for the past 2 years. So I'm not going to go into the details.
That's fair. That is totally fair. Let's stop. Okay, we'll stop right there. And that's fair. We don't have to explore that anymore. The question then I would follow up on that, as far as when we're going forward, if you're talking about rejoining the party and getting back into leadership, there have been things going on, and we just had a previous election. With respect, where were you? Where was your voice? If you had been convinced that it was a bad choice, that you should not have left the party, that you needed to help get Republicans elected, where was your voice during the fall election, with all respect?
So I think that's...
Danielle, I need to jump in on this. So I hate for you to pick on my partner here too much. Every question you ask has validity. But let's remember, Danielle came back to the party in January. And we want to use that as a template for others out there that need to come back to that party. You may be disenfranchised. You may be upset. You may have left the party. You may have actually went and helped Democrats as a soft Republican. But you know what? That doesn't mean you can't come back to us. And we want people like Danielle. We want people that have energy, enthusiasm, that want the best for our country, that are true patriots, that maybe have lost their way, or maybe they didn't like the politics in the direction Colorado Republicans were going. If we change that trajectory, if we change that, if people see, we can do a lot of talking, but they need to see it. I think more people like Danielle will come back to the party. And we're not going to hold them accountable. I'm going to say, Ronald Reagan, you're a Democrat in California, and you worked for the Democrat Party and helped Democrats get elected, and now all of a sudden you want to be governor of California. I'm not going to say no to Ronald Reagan. I'm not going to say no to Donald Trump, who was a Democrat in New York State and contributed money to Democrats in previous elections before he became a Republican. I'm not going to say, hey, you're a bad person. I will never get behind you. You could never lead our party. You could never lead this country. You have to be very careful as you try to look at somebody's past and predicate and say this is their future. That's the caution I'm just going to offer as we move forward to everybody in Colorado. You have to understand, with vision, with leadership, and with change in our hearts and in our heads, we can do a lot of things. And I'm running for chair, and Danielle knows that.
And
so
Richard, Danielle,
that wisdom and that leadership's going to come from me, and I'm going to help everybody succeed in this party as the leader of this party. Everybody, including those. Go ahead.
We got about 1 minute left. I want to give 30 seconds to both of you to wrap up, give your closing arguments as to why you should serve as chair and vice chair of the Colorado Republican Party. Go ahead, Richard, then Danielle.
Okay. Well, Colorado, we need a winning message. We need a winning brand that resonates with all the Coloradans. Under my senior leadership, we will have a mission, vision, and values that take this party in a new direction. We'll build capacity in our statewide elections. We will do the blocking and tackling. And ladies and gentlemen, it's not all about raising money. Ask the DNC and Kamala Harris how that went for them last November. It's about the message, the brand, and do we understand the Colorado electorate? Do we want to win in Colorado as Republicans? I say yes.
Danielle, 30 seconds to you.
Well, I think that Richard hit on it best, but I'm just going to say this. Moving forward, the Republican Party has a playbook, and we want every single person who is a conservative voice in Colorado to be a walk-on to our team. We want to recruit you. We want to help get the message out, and we want to start winning in Colorado. So I'm happy to be a part of this team. I'm happy to see the vision moving forward, and I hope that we've earned your support.
Richard Holtorf, Danielle Neuschwanger, seeking to lead the Colorado Republican Party moving forward. Thank you so much for taking time to join the Jeff and Bill Show.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
We'll continue. Johnny, we'll get to you. We'd love to hear your thoughts and questions. Give us a call, 303-696-1971. Who do you support to lead the Colorado Republican Party moving forward? Did Richard and Danielle convince you that you should pull the lever for them? If you're a member of the State Central Committee, if you're going to be voting later in March, do they make a compelling case? Do you support Britta, Darcy, Lori Sane? Phone lines are open. 303-696-1971. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Just interviewed Richard Holtorf and Danielle Neuschwanger, candidates for chair and vice chair of the Colorado Republican Party. Let's go to the phone lines. Johnny Denver. Good morning, Johnny.
Morning.
Yeah, as I was listening to those, good morning, guys. As I was listening to that, in District 5, HD5 House District, there was a Republican there in 2012. Didn't really pay attention to it because I was into putting on concerts in the park, and she came up and gave me her card and whatever. So I decided to run against this Alice Valdez. And you can, if you're running, you can look up like how much money they start out with and all that kind of stuff. So I found out that when he started, he had $100,000. Then when I ran against him, he had $38,000. I had $800.
Wow.
Then, and nothing, I hear nothing from Christy Burton Brown and all those kind of sides. Then I did it again. He has $16,000, right? And I had two donors. I had the GOP with Dave running. They forked over some money, and it added up to $500 to his $16,000. This is the last time he can't run again this time. So I'm thinking, like, should I try again? Because the Republicans have been there before. Or should I say, if I'm not going to get the financial support, because, you know, you can only control, like, the effort you put in, but you can't control the outcome. Should I waste my time? If they want somebody else, if I'm not the best person, bring somebody else in from Denver who they like better, who they can support with at least, if not 100,000, at least 50,000, so we can compete better.
Yeah, Johnny, and I've heard that from other candidates as well, that the money compared to what the Democrats were pouring in just wasn't there. John Fabricatori points this out too. The Democrats really wanted Congressional District 6, and they poured in millions of dollars against Mike Kaufman originally to do so. You don't quite see that same effort that comes on the Republican side, either from the major donors or even from those that are in leadership, to be able to put that type of recruiting, funding, voter registration all into it the same way that the Democrats have. So there's some work to be done there. Johnny, great call. Sure, appreciate it. Give us a call. What do you think about Richard Holtorf and Danielle Neuschwanger? Do you think they can turn things around? 303-696-1971. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. We're wrapping up our interview with Richard Holtorf and Danielle Neuschwanger. They want to lead the Colorado Republican Party. Lots of text messages on this one on both sides. People say, Bill, you were great. You asked the tough questions. And other people saying, Bill, you were rude. You asked too many tough questions.
Yeah, I know. Or I didn't ask the right questions or asked too many in a row and I didn't like the answer. Yeah. I know.
Right down the middle, Billy. All right, let's go to Marcus, Denver. Good morning, Marcus. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show.
Morning.
Yeah, morning, guys. Hey, I like Richard and Danelle, but they knew one thing. And when you question them, there's more independents in the state of Colorado than Democrats or Republicans, because they left the Republican Party. And so I just found that amazing. I like how Billy asks questions. I like your answers, too. And I just find it fascinating.
Yeah, the importance of appealing to independence is going to be critical. But, Marcus, do you think you do that by moderating or by being committed to conservative values? Your thoughts?
Well, I'm an independent and I am conservative. They always ask a question about independence. Are you conservative or non-conservative? And I always found that fascinating. But after everything that's happening in the state of Colorado, people are pissed and they're leaving. And that's why we got that new party sitting there, independent. And nobody can get past us, because there's not enough Dems or Republicans.
Marcus, I wish that was the point. I wish people were fed up to make a change, but it just seems like they keep doubling down on Democrats, especially incompetent ones like Jenna Griswold. Appreciate the call. You're listening to Jeff and Bill.
KNUS.
It is 8 a.m. in the Mile High City on this Monday, March 10th, 2025. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned in to the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710, KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights and hottest takes from the right, left, and center. Congratulations. You just woke up in the greatest country in history. Donald Trump's your president. We're off and running. We got an entire hour planned for engaging conversations, critical analysis, but most importantly, your phone calls and texts, because this is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. Phone lines are open, 303-696-1971, or text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line at 720-819-5115. Coming up a little bit later in the hour, rockets are exploding and stranded astronauts are being rescued. Meanwhile, national correspondent Rory O'Neil has been given an insider's tour of NASA's next mission to the moon.
He went to space camp.
Yeah, exactly.
Space camp.
Rory's going to discuss what's ahead in the exploration for outer space. This is so cool. We might be heading back to the moon, dude.
Once went on a date with a girl in high school, specifically because she went to space camp, and I just want to find out what it was like.
Yeah.
I'm like,
and what did you learn?
Yeah, I'm taking you to dinner. There was nothing romantic. He said, but I'm taking you to dinner. I got to find out about this stuff. I got to know.
You never went to space camp, huh?
No.
I never did either. I would have liked to.
Yeah, would have been cool.
I built little, I was big into the little model rockets.
Oh,
for
yeah,
a while.
Estes Rockets did that too for quite a while.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep, getting to the 2-3 stage ones. And the problem isn't chasing them down.
Yes.
Yeah. Having to do it and getting. Now, how far away was the park, or where you could, shoot them off from your house?
Well, we did
curiosity?
it. We did it from the house, which was a mistake because I grew up in Old Cherry Hills. Lots of trees.
Yes, lots.
I bet there's a good half dozen old rockets still hanging out in those willow trees. Those cottonwood trees. I mean, all throughout Old Cherry Hills.
We launched ours from Washington Park.
Yeah.
Because there was lots of open space there until the police showed up and said you can't do this anymore.
I know.
So we knew there was a window of
bummer.
time. Yeah, we knew there was a window of time to, we were like, okay, we got like 45 minutes, give or take. Alrighty, guys, let's go. Yeah, that's basically it. And then one time at we shot them off, and the police showed up real quickly there. Tennis courts that are right near Colfax and, Colorado and Colfax.
And I get why they're outlawed, the fire hazard, all that stuff. But like out of all the stuff that you're going to jump on kids for doing, because the amount of work it takes for the kid to put in to the rocket, he's not doing drugs.
No. And our thing was always, officers, we're not shooting them at each other. That was our first inclination is, can we shoot this at our friends? But no, we're actually doing it like we're supposed to. And now we're getting in trouble for this. Not because the stupid stuff we were thinking of doing in the first place. Yeah, that was always a disappointment.
Dude, have you been to a hobby store recently?
Not in probably 2 to 3 years.
Okay. Well, have you seen, like when I was a kid, you went to a hobby store, a big part of it.
All the time.
Model rockets and trains. Okay?
Yep. Yeah.
I went into a hobby store recently, and it's all the little cars, RC cars.
Yes.
I couldn't. There was almost nothing there for rockets anymore.
Yeah, almost no rockets. No. The other thing that was in the hobby store is always with little D&D figures.
Yeah.
Yeah, little Dungeons and Dragons. Did that for a while. Yeah. Did that for a while.
Of course.
In fact, I was cleaning out some stuff from my parents' house and pulled out a set that I had spent so much time painting. And I looked back and I'm like, I was pretty good at this one. The rest of them looked like crap.
Yeah.
It was just like awful. But this is one that I spent some time on.
Do you ever wonder what hobby you're going to get back into in your 60s? Like when everything's done, you're no longer working, and you're just going to. Are you going to get back into that stuff? You can get back into painting Dungeons and Dragons?
No, I'm hoping dart guns at pigeons. That was the thing we did for a while. Maybe that's what I choose.
Never even heard of that.
Oh, yes. When
Billy and the pigeon calling service.
I just say that my friends and I together, when he got us together and we started thinking of things to do, there always was a way to make it go one step too far. Yes, always.
There's violence involved.
Yes, or the severe chance of someone getting injured. If one of our friends couldn't sustain some sort of an injury or a massive cut, it wasn't a fun activity. Just on its face.
All right. Speaking of dangerous activities, now it's time for Blake Olson.
Blake Olson.
Blake Olson, news and comment.
All right, thanks a lot, Jeff and Billy. The danger zone is here. 36 and mostly cloudy in Denver, expecting a high of 69 today. The 7-10 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story: a federal judge is rejecting a lawsuit filed by Denver Public Schools to block immigration enforcement at their schools. The district was the first in the country to sue the Department of Homeland Security. The judge said that any losses to schools are unrelated to the new policy, and blocking it would not change the situation. The district started to give its youngest students keychains with contact information in the event ICE shows up at the schools. Nice. Danielle Neuschwanger and Representative Richard Holtorf on with Jeff and Billy last hour. They want to team up and run the Colorado GOP. They say they have a winning game plan to turn the state GOP around.
And we can't get into all the details, but we know the other people that are out there will steal our plan because it's so good. They will steal it, and all of a sudden it will become a part of their platform. And they don't understand the plan implicitly. So I'm going to turn this over to Danielle because I'm really excited to serve Colorado. And I'm a selfless servant. I don't need the job. I don't need the money. Some of them need the job. Some of them desperately want a job because they need the money. And they're grifters. They're profiteers. They're people that want to take from politics. I want to give back.
Stay tuned. On that one, police say 2 teens were wounded Sunday while playing with a gun in Aurora. Officers were called to a mobile home community on Sable Boulevard after the shooting was reported around 7:30 at night. Investigators say a 15-year-old boy was playing with the gun when it went off, injuring him and another 15-year-old. Both teens were taken to the hospital, with one reported to have life-threatening injuries. Continuing resolution discussion all day today in D.C. Conservatives like Chip Roy support it and have a 6-month plan.
Now, we don't have it all. So we need to keep the lights on. We need Elon to keep doing his work at Doge. We need all of that great team to deliver. And then we can insert that into appropriations this summer for FY26. Basically, freezing spending is always a good conservative win. We don't love the policies, right? That wouldn't be our normal choice. But now we have President Trump and his great team deciding how these policies are implemented. So we want to give them the flexibility to.
An investigation is underway after Secret Service agents shot a man near the White House early Sunday morning. The Secret Service had reportedly been notified about a potentially suicidal individual traveling from India to D.C. ahead of the incident. President Trump was at his Mar-a-Lago resort at the time of the incident. Also Sunday, fighter jets from NORAD intercepted a civilian aircraft after it entered restricted airspace over Mar-a-Lago. Vice President J.D. Vance walking his 3-year-old Sunday morning in Cincinnati, and a bunch of Ukrainian supporters or supporters of Ukraine, lefties, start screaming at him and his daughter about the war and Russia. He tries to calm them down a little bit.
Ma'am, look at my 3-year-old daughter now, and I told you, I talked to you for 5 minutes, and now I did not agree to have my 3-year-old to have people run around and yell at her, and I did talk to you, and I had said, if I talk to you for a few minutes, will you leave my 3-year-old daughter alone? And you said yes. So I'd like you guys to respect that.
Okay.
You signed up for this job, and you're going to listen to us on a Sunday morning.
DJT is warning that tariffs against Mexico and Canada could go up further. The president was also pushed on the possibility of a recession happening this year. The president said he hates to predict things like that, adding there is a period of transition. A small plane crash in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. 5 on board. They all survived. Air traffic control audio released.
Lancaster Tower, Bonanza 347 Mike has an open door. We need to return for a landing.
347 Mike, Roger. You want to make it to 3-1 or 2-6?
Lancaster Tower, I cannot hear you with the wind, so we're going to return to 2-6. We're going to do downwind.
347 Mike, Roger. Runway 26, clear to land.
26, clear to land. 347 Mike.
Yeah, 347, Mike. Pull up.
Rescue 1, Lancaster Tower. The aircraft is down out just behind the terminal on the parking lot street.
Wow. So it landed in the parking lot of a senior's home, and one door was open, evidently. That's why you couldn't hear air traffic control. 34 in Aurora, 35 in Lakewood, 37 in Denver. Thunder over the Nuggets, UNC over Weber State to advance to the semis of the Big Sky Conference tournament. It is tournament time. CSU, the second seed in the Mountain West Conference, they play Thursday, and CU plays Wednesday in the Big 12 tournament. They're going to have to run the table there to get into the tournament. But CSU is the second seed, and see how they do in the Mountain West tournament. It's a great time of year. Jeff and Billy continue.
You can smell, can feel the toxicity, frankly, of the environment.
Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. The music's not supposed to go away exactly that quickly. We appreciate you listening with us today, and we're going to get back to the conversation in a moment. But first, I want to take a moment to talk to you about a new advertiser here on the show, Wound Care Associates of Colorado. Now, ignoring a problem doesn't fix the problem. Just putting that electrical tape over the check engine light on your dashboard, doesn't help. You don't see it, but it doesn't mean the problem isn't there. And that's what can happen when you're dealing with a slow-healing cut, a diabetic ulcer, a pressure sore. Ignoring the problem doesn't fix the problem. That's why Jennifer Walker started Wound Care Associates of Colorado, because of a very important, tragic story in her life. Her uncle had some comorbidities, diabetes, neuropathy, and he developed a small cut on his toe. Doesn't seem like a big deal. If it was you, a loved one, you probably wouldn't be paying attention to that cut. You'd be worried about the larger medical issues that person or yourself is dealing with, right? Right. That's what Jennifer and her family were doing. But it was that small cut that turned into a very big deal, because that torn tissue and skin is the perfect place for dirt, germs, and bacteria to get access to your body. That's what happened with her uncle. By the time that he sought medical treatment, the infection had spread. This was a serious infection, started with a very small cut, and they went in and did an amputation. The infection had spread too far. It was already deep into his blood, his organs, and even his bones. He passed away a few days later. Not because of the diabetes, not because of neuropathy or one of the other larger medical conditions he was dealing with, but because of that small cut on his foot. That's how serious this can be. That's why you don't mess around. That's why you deal with the best. Wound Care Associates of Colorado. They're brand new to the state, and they're changing the game. Two different ways. One, going old school. Concierge-style service where their wound-certified nurse practitioner comes to your home, gives you a private, personal appointment, and does all the treatment necessary. No transportation, no sitting in a waiting room, no getting into a doctor's office where you might be exposed to another set of dirt, germs, and bacteria. Or just sitting around your own dirt, germs, and bacteria. Making fun of you, but you feel me. So here's the deal. Their nurse practitioner comes to your house. They set up a tailor-made custom care plan based on your needs. Everything that you need. They have the ability to change orders in all 9 yards. Plus, they're going to improve your healing outcomes, because too many, this is the second point, too many of those wound care facilities out there are just trying to maintain the wound. They're not trying to fix it. They're not trying to heal it. That's different with Wound Care Associates of Colorado. So, don't mess around. That little thing can become a very big deal. Ignoring the problem doesn't fix the problem, but Wound Care Associates of Colorado will fix the problem so that you don't have a tragic outcome like Jennifer did with her uncle. This is personal to her, and I've shared a story in my family as well. It's personal to me. Don't mess around. ColoradoWound.com, ColoradoWound.com to contact the best in the business, Wound Care Associates of Colorado. And when you reach out to them and set up your appointment with ColoradoWound.com, tell them you heard about them here on the Jeff and Bill Show because it helps us out. Thanks.
That's great to hear, Bill. So, saw this and almost thought it was a April Fool's joke, but it's not April Fool's. Really? This actually came from the Jeffco sheriff. This was a post yesterday on their X account. Fraud alert, they write, with a big picture of a laminated sign with the words fraud across it. They write, a fraudulent flyer was recently posted at some park restrooms in Jefferson County. Although the insinuation is absolutely absurd, the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office believes it is important to clarify that our agency would never be involved in anything of the sort. The Sheriff's Office will not tolerate anyone misrepresenting our agency or misuse of our logo in such a manner. If we can identify those responsible for this alarming flyer, we will pursue the appropriate charges against them. If you have any information about the incidents or the origin of this flyer, we urge you to contact the Sheriff's Office tip line at 303-271-5612. And you can remain anonymous. What does this flyer say? It says, notice in a big box at the top. Then says, in compliance with recent executive orders, the Jefferson County Sheriff's Department will be conducting random genitalia inspections at all public restrooms beginning April 21st, 2025. It then has the Jeffco logo, Jeffco Sheriff's logo, followed by Jefferson County Sheriff's Department. Let me read that again for you, just in case you missed it. There's a laminated flyer posted in restrooms in Jefferson County that say, notice, in compliance with recent executive orders, apparently a reference to something Donald Trump signed? I don't know. There's Jefferson County Sheriff's Department will be conducting random genitalia inspections at all public restrooms beginning April 21st, 2025. Signed, Jefferson County Sheriff's Department. Bill, my mind, I don't even know where to go with this one. Who laminated this thing? And is it a political protest? What is going on here?
I think someone has a friend at one of those print shops. Absolutely. This is something.
And it's designed to look like...
Yeah.
What?
Again, I think it's hilarious, personally. I think it's kind of funny. I think it's that idea of something...
It's like the guy who has the FBI card that says female body inspector.
Yeah, exactly. It's something that has just enough of the truth inside of it to make the joke plausible. And I applaud this. This is something that I would have done in my younger days. This is, again...
is it a reference to the trans stuff? Is that what the executive order is?
Because part of the issue being that that is part of the question, that unless you have some other indication, how are you going to check to make sure that the girls are only participating with girls?
Oh, that's it.
Yeah,
okay.
And I ran into this.
Took me a minute.
Yeah, on two separate occasions while coaching. Two separate occasions where there were kids, and they were, again, prepubescent at the time, but there were questions from, in one case, a referee, and in one case, a parent from the other team, as far as the sex of a particular player. In both cases, the sex of that particular player was misidentified. But because this person had either too long of hair or too short of hair for what they'd assumed would be that person's gender at the time, they made an assumption in the other direction. And so that was questions I was asked on two different occasions when I was coaching. This is a number of years ago. But that's the idea, is if you can't look at the person and you're making that assumption, then how are you going to necessarily enforce that? And the same thing could be true inside of, let's just say, walking into the rec center or walking into any one of the exercise facilities. If someone walks in and goes into, the restroom or changing room that is not of their biological sex, how do you check? How do you enforce that? I think that's a question. That's what they're doing is they're taking that idea and saying, how do you possibly enforce this type of an idea? And I brought that up before on the show. I brought up the idea that people say, oh, now that we've prevented the trans, none of the guys are walking into the bathrooms. I haven't seen a guard or anything preventing a guy from walking into a bathroom and assaulting a female in there as exists right now. We don't have a bioscan. There's no signature verification form or anything else like that outside the bathrooms.
Yeah, well, and okay, so now I get it. I understand. This is a progressive protest against Donald Trump and the executive order, that the only executive order he's signed so far with regards to trans, there's two of them. One, that men cannot compete in women's sports, and two, that that you can't do the gender-affirming surgeries, the mutilation surgeries against children. So that's it. But this is an effort to kind of try to prove a point that the Jefferson County Sheriff's Department's going to be conducting random genitalia inspections. But I think the critique was that under the trans worldview, we were allowing men to go into women's restrooms. Just under, I mean, they could do it under the guise of being trans, but the movement was not that there needs to be inspections, but that we were now allowing that to take place, which made women feel uncomfortable, rightly so. We got a phone call here, Bill?
Yeah.
Let's go
Jack
to
in Wyoming.
Jack, Wyoming. Good morning, Jack. You're on the Jeff and Bill show.
Yeah, Billy, your last name is Thorpe, right?
Yes, sir. All day today.
Well, when are you going to make it Thorpe Utopia?
You realize the paperwork that's involved in that? It's way too difficult.
Nobody hates paperwork more than... Hey, listen, I agree with you thoroughly. If you're going to turn around and say that it's not acceptable to have all of these male, females, and crisscrossing into the bathrooms and all that, well, it's common sense is if you're going to say that this needs to be enforced, there's only one way to enforce it, and I don't see how you can argue with that.
Yeah, I think that's part of the problem with the idea of enforcing it. I think, if you have certain other indicators in the past, things like they have changed their name, they were biologically male at one point in their life and now biologically female, the idea of the trans swimmer in the NCAA, then we have some background. But other than that, it's really difficult is how do you check? And even casually, how do you check? Even in a public restroom or at, an exercise facility, how would you possibly know at that point?
Well, as long as a society we agree it's inappropriate to have this crisscrossing, how else do you enforce it?
Can a man be arrested for being in a woman's restroom at this point in the state of Colorado? Do you know, Bill?
Not aware of it. I don't know.
Ticketed?
I'm not sure. I don't. Yeah. I don't think you. I'm not aware of a statute. That doesn't mean it doesn't exist. But I'm not aware of a statute that just because you are not of the biological sex and you're in the other restroom, that somehow constitutes a violation.
Well, it's normal decency, for crying out loud. It's common sense,
I agree.
Which is the enemy. Well, common sense and logic is the enemy of the Democrat Party. It's going to bring them down.
Well, and Jack, I think that's the point I'm trying to get at on this one is before it was generally considered unacceptable for that to take place. And what you saw under the trans movement in the last 5 years or so is that we were somehow harming trans people by not allowing them to use the restroom of their choice. And so you had a shift where the burden was then upon women. You need to feel uncomfortable. Even if you feel uncomfortable, you need to accept it because we need to put the burdens now on you to be accepting to trans people to choose the restroom of their choice. Bury your insecurities, bury your concerns, and just accept it.
So what they're saying is they're telling women, and they're telling them that they have to subordinate their decency that's been a standard since the beginning of time based on 2% of degenerates. That's what they're saying. That's exactly what they're saying.
Yep. Jack, appreciate the call. Thanks so much. Jack's line will be open 303-696-1971. What we're talking about is a flyer that's gone up and is clearly, thanks to Bill's helping me understand this, a protest. A protest against Trump and his executive orders on transgenders, and it says this is a flyer that's gone up in Jefferson County parks and restrooms. It says, in compliance with recent executive orders, the Jefferson County Sheriff's Department will be conducting random genitalia inspections at all public restrooms beginning April 21st, 2025. But my understanding is, Bill, is that there's no executive order that would require that or even ban men from using women's restrooms. The only two trans executive orders I'm aware of, and I could be wrong, have to do with gender mutilation surgeries of minors and men competing in women's sports.
Yeah, although I did do the thing about recognizing two genders, which was the way it was explained made us all female, which was really weird. You'd think they would have done the search of the science. I do have to give a shout out. Caller said they thought they had remembered something with Governor Bill Ritter signing a bill about saying that anyone can use any bathroom. And I have found it that in 2006, Governor Ritter signed a law that allows all sorts of things, as far as it basically just is a non-discrimination, that you can't be discriminated based on going into this area, that area, and bathrooms are covered on that, whether or not you be homosexual or transgender or whatever. So rather than there being a law preventing it, there's a specific law that seems to allow either one to take place. Yeah. The thing that I get is part of what Jack was talking about there was, where we're doing this for this percentage of the population. But that's kind of what some of these laws, as far as discrimination and stuff, are to prevent as well, because, they're minority populations here. And we're not saying it's going to be okay to discriminate against them. The same argument was made with people that were gay when we were starting to have more mainstream acceptance of their relationships. It was always about, well, I'm okay with they're gay, they just can't do it in public. I just can't ever see it. They can't hold hands, they can't kiss, they can't acknowledge their partners, they can't do anything that a heterosexual partner can do in public. I don't want to see that. Why do they have to force their ideas and beliefs on me? And then we had that. And then we also, of course, had concern about, oh my gosh, I'm going to be inside of a locker room or inside of that setting or on a sports team with a gay person. Oh my gosh, how is that going to infect me and impact me? And we haven't seen that necessarily happening. So again, I'm concerned that we are seeing monsters that don't exist because of our own worldview, and in part because some of this makes us feel uncomfortable. And that worries me.
Yeah, and I see it differently. I think gender is directly attached to your biology. So there are two genders, two sexes, male, female. You're born that way. And our efforts to try to change that has resulted in actual consequences, primarily on the trans issue for women in sports, women feeling safe in their restrooms, those types of things. Where do you fall along this line? Give us a call. You're welcome to join the conversation, 303-696-1971, or text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line at 720-819-5115. Look, if you're losing your hair, you need a simple solution that works. You want the best modern technology with top-rated physicians, something that's guaranteed to work. Guys, you need Dr. Tanya Pauls and her team at Advanced Hair. They've completely redefined hair restoration, from the experience itself to their unmatched results. Receding hairline, bald spot, or thinning hair, address them all with Advanced Hair's simple one-day treatment. One day. It's in a calm, relaxed environment, and it has the most experienced professionals. Advanced Hair has performed tens of thousands of these breakthrough treatments. And get this, your own natural hair begins to regrow the very next day. No one in Denver can offer anything like the advanced FUE found at Advanced Hair, and I highly recommend their team. It starts with your free consultation. Call 720-459-HAIR. That's 720-459-HAIR. If you qualify, you'll get $250 off and 250 free hair grafts. Refine your hairline with the team that's redefined hair restoration. 720-459-HAIR. That's 720-459-HAIR or advancedhair.com. That's advancedhair.com. We'll continue with your phone calls and texts. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Rockets are exploding and stranded astronauts are being rescued. Meanwhile, national correspondent Rory O'Neill has been given an insider's tour of NASA's next mission to the moon. Rory's going to discuss what is ahead in the exploration of outer space.
Rory went to space camp. I'm so jealous.
He gets to do what we all want to do.
Yes.
Rory O'Neill, NBC News national correspondent, joins the Jeff and Bill Show. Good morning, Rory.
Good morning.
Yeah, good morning. Now, my boss wrote that little line there, and I just get angry. It's not outer space. It's right here. But anyway, go ahead. It's within the moon's orbit. That's not outer space. But okay, go ahead.
I love it. He's even down to the technical differences in space. So you got a chance to go to NASA, dude.
Well, look, I'm here in Central Florida. I like to go all the time. Look, if you're planning that Disney World Universal vacation, take the day to go out to the Space Center. It's so cool. It's not boring necessarily. Don't bring a 3-year-old is not going to appreciate it. But yeah, there's plenty of cool stuff for teenagers even. So yeah, take that day. It's only 45 minutes to the Cape from Disney or Universal. So I highly recommend adding that because it's a pretty involved tour for the day.
Well, it feels like space travel is kind of reinvigorated recently. For years, budget concerns kind of ended our returns to the moon. But are we heading back to the moon?
Well, that's the plan. So, we launched the Artemis 1 mission last year, and that sent up that Orion crew capsule. It really was a test of its heat shield and its basic design. Artemis 2 is what we're preparing for now. That's the mission I like to call everything but. It's everything but landing on the moon. So we're going to send 4 astronauts in this Orion capsule around the moon and back again. Artemis 3 is when we hope to land the very first woman on the moon. And if you forgot your mythology, Artemis is the twin sister of a guy named Apollo. So get it? First man on the moon, Apollo. First woman, Artemis.
Oh, nice.
Oh, that's nice.
That is very cool. And how are things going? Are we on the right time trajectory for this? When will we land again on the moon?
Well, the landing might not be until about 2028, 2029. But they're trying to get it done. But look, the budget for NASA is pretty tight, and for human space exploration in particular. One of the reasons they tried to get out of the space shuttle program and try to focus on the moon and onto Mars was to try to realize that they don't have the budget they once did. When we were going to the moon, we spent more than 4% of the federal budget on NASA back in the 60s and 70s. Nowadays, that number is less than 1/3 of 1%. So NASA just doesn't have the money it used to, and it seems that they're trying to do more and more with less and less money. So it's a challenge, and I think what it's going to take is to try to reinvigorate that space race. And if we find out that maybe India or Russia or China may be going to the moon and Mars first, maybe that'll be the kick in the pants that either gets NASA or partners like SpaceX going faster.
Are we seeing development out of those other countries? And what are they doing with regards to space?
Yeah, I mean, China has its own space station. China has been landing multiple vehicles on the moon. They haven't sent a human to the moon yet. But it's, they are much more aggressive about this. And they are more likely to roll the dice with human lives compared to the U.S. Let's put it that way.
Now, we're talking with Rory O'Neill, NBC News national correspondent. He's been given an insider tour of NASA's next mission to the moon. Now, we're watching a lot of cuts happen with federal government spending. Right. Is Elon Musk's love for space, his vision and dream to go to Mars, is that tempering any cuts we may be seeing to NASA?
Well, that's a debate because there's a lot of speculation right now that, NASA is not really a big fan, or rather Musk is not a big fan of the way NASA is planning to do this moon mission and go on to Mars. Maybe in part because NASA is paying some other contractors like Boeing, like Blue Origin, Jeff Bezos' company, and maybe Musk wants more of his vision for moon exploration. So the concern is that considering his influence, Musk might try to direct more of the money his way for the SpaceX way of going to the moon and on to Mars rather than the NASA way.
That's interesting. Yeah, Roy O'Neill, how do you feel, an NBC News national correspondent joining Jeff and Bill live, how do you feel Elon is going to be able to navigate this apparent conflict of interest? I know that the White House has said that Elon Musk is going to self-regulate and that he is going to make a choice about whether or not he has a conflict of interest, which in and of itself is a conflict of interest, just giving the person the choice to make that. So what are you hearing about the idea that can Elon navigate this and still maintain that appearance of not having a conflict of interest?
We don't know. Is the short answer, because it's going to depend. The new incoming head of NASA is a friend of Musk. In fact, it's the man who flew on Dragon capsules. He flew on SpaceX missions. You may remember him. He was the first man to do a commercial spacewalk just last year in a SpaceX ship. He bought Isaacman bought 4 rides on SpaceX ships. So he's invested heavily into SpaceX, the new head of NASA. So now you're like, well, wait a minute now. Just how chummy is this whole thing? And look, NASA has done this to help. SpaceX is successful so much because NASA gave it the seed money to make it successful. NASA buys rides to the International Space Station aboard SpaceX rockets. They invest in SpaceX technology so that SpaceX can perfect its rocket and then launch SpaceX Starlink satellites into orbit and other commercial things. NASA is trying to fund a commercial space industry. And Elon Musk may not like the competition because there are companies like Blue Origin from Jeff Bezos and others that are out there, Northrop Grumman or Lockheed Martin or Boeing, that all would like a little piece of this to try to start this kind of a commercial space industry. But can Musk keep all that money for himself is the question.
Now, Roy O'Neill, NBC News national correspondent, do you hear anything about when you were touring NASA, talking about alternative technologies, alternative ways to make sure that we can explore the stars, efficient ways to get to Mars, or even new ways of getting satellites up into the air? And the reason I ask is because Japan just last year launched the very first wooden satellite into space.
Right. Yeah, that doesn't seem to be in the cards. And look, a lot of what NASA is doing after they retired the shuttle fleet, they said, we've been going up and down 200 miles to the space station for 25 plus years. That's okay. We figured out how to do that. Let's focus our limited resources on doing bigger things. So yes, it's possible that you're looking at different kinds of satellite launches and different materials for satellites, but NASA's human spaceflight focus is no longer on low Earth orbit. They're trying to get beyond to the moon and on to Mars. And again, trying to do it with that limited budget, working with commercial partners to try to get it done. So and again, by spending that money, they're trying to foster these kinds of programs and operations. So if there's a wooden satellite is the solution, great. Let's figure it out. And here's a little seed money to get you along the way.
Rory O'Neill, NBC News national correspondent, living the dream we all wish we could.
Yes, so
getting
jealous.
an insider tour on NASA's next mission to the moon. Rory, thanks so much for taking time to join the Jeff and Bill Show.
Yes, thank you, Space Cowboy.
All right, talk to you soon. Thanks.
Oh.
Thanks,
that was
I
a great
that.
line, dude.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Right. Speaking of another space cowboy, I want to talk to you about my friend Dan Caplis and his firm, Dan Caplis Law. I've known Dan for well over a decade. He's pro-life, pro-family, pro-faith, pro-America. That matters because who you choose to represent you in an injury case is going to say a lot about you to everyone involved in the case, the insurance companies, the other lawyers, possibly judges, juries. You want somebody with a solid reputation for over 40 years. Dan Caplis has been helping people who have been hurt in serious motor vehicle crashes. He's a real winner. Listen to these statistics. Dan is believed to be the only lawyer in Colorado history to win 5 straight multi-million-dollar verdicts in Colorado crash cases. Dan is also believed to have won the largest truck crash verdict in Colorado history. Dan Caplis Law is so trusted that he's the official law firm partner of the Denver Nuggets and the Colorado Avalanche. Dan Caplis Law, a serious firm for serious cases. Dan accepts righteous injury cases on a percentage fee basis so that he can represent good people from all walks of life without regard to ability to pay. So if you need Dan's help, give him a call. Here's the phone number, 303-770-5551. That's 303-770-5551, or hit dancaplisLaw.com. That's Dan, C-A-P-L-I-S, law.com. We'll continue with your phone calls and texts. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader News Talk 710 KNUS.
Billy and I just wrapping up an interview with Rory O'Neill on NASA's next mission to the moon, which is coming up in 2028, 2029. A worthy use of our funding, Bill.
Yeah, it is. I think we need, because what goes on out there, we do need to figure it out. And also, that innovation has led to a lot of jumps forward in the microwave. The one that you use every day is directly a result of what NASA was doing. The thing for me that we forgot to ask Rory about is, are they still using the Tang? Because that used to be the drink of astronauts. Where's the Tang? I mean, did he find the big Tang dispensary? Is it just powdered, or what is it?
Not if Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is going to have anything to say about it. That's not Maha, man.
Yeah, I know.
You've been weightless.
Yes, I have. Well, that was, and I put on weight since then. It was great. There's a lot here around the middle. Now, this would be middle school time. A friend of mine moved in next door, and they had a really cool friend of the family that was a Learjet pilot. He's a former F-4 fighter pilot out of Korea, and he was flying Learjets and stopped in town one time and wanted to know, he was going to help out, my buddy lived next door, with his science project for the year. And he asked me, do you want to go do this with us? I'm like, because I could use extra hands. I'm like, yeah. I had no idea exactly what we were going to be doing, because he was going to go up in a plane and said, yeah, we're going to talk about weightlessness. So for about 45 minutes in airspace that had been cleared, we were allowed to do the little loopy-loop up and down thing where you go like the big things. And so you're allowed to go weightless, and used a video camera at the time, the big, huge video camera. So we were filming each other, and then we put it on a tripod.
Do you have that tape still?
No, I have no idea where it is. But the best part about it is I'm holding the tape, and he's talking, and he has an orange in his hand. And we do the first thing, and the orange just starts to rise off his hand, and then he starts lifting off the chair. It is the coolest visual.
So cool.
Yeah, exactly. And, were the experiments legitimate, actual middle school science project things? No, not at all. Not at all. No. We just went whoop, 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 up and down in a plane for a while. And that was really cool. That was awesome. That was a really cool experience.
Sounds amazing.
Yes.
Well,
and I'm not certain it was totally legal.
I wonder if we'll get to Mars in our lifetime.
Again,
do you think so?
Here's the part: I bet we can't. Our lifetime, no. Our kids' lifetime, yeah. I'm blessed about the question is I understand the want to be there, but this idea of colonizing Mars, I feel that's less of a goal. I would love to go there and explore it, but colonization, I think, is ignoring the real problem. And I'll go to Neil deGrasse Tyson. If we get to a point where we can colonize Mars and we can terraform Mars to where it should be, we can fix Earth. That if we have the technology and the ability to make sure that Mars becomes, breathable air, and we can grow things there, etc., then we have the technology to fix the stuff going wrong here. So fix this one before we all start jumping on rockets and going to a different planet. Fix this one first, and then
going back to your point on technological development, wouldn't that help us develop the technology
absolutely, yes.
to save this one?
I want to be there. Yeah, I think we should have to go there and get there. But the idea of colonizing Mars, the idea that we're setting up a new Earth, because that's what Elon is looking at. I think
that's because we all grew up with Total Recall, man.
Oh, exactly.
That's what I want to see.
Yeah, that's the thing is, if we have that ability, we fix this planet first, then we can go fix other planets.
Melt the ice.
Exactly.
We're going to continue this conversation. Phone lines are open, 303-696-1971. Or you can text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line at 720-819-5115. Now, conservatives who've been standing for our Jewish friends, standing for the rights of Israel to defend itself, those of us that are Zionists, have found that our battles are not just relegated to the radical left, but sometimes on the right as well. Dr. Owen Strand's going to join us. He's with the Dobson Center, and he's been combating this from the right. And some of the stuff that's happening there, which is just bizarre. So not going to want to miss this conversation. We'll get to your phone calls as well. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
It is 9 a.m. in the Mile High City on this Monday, March 10th, 2025. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show. News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning. We know it's the daylight savings hangover. You're trying to figure out where you are, what you are. Billy and I both averaged about 4 hours of sleep last night, so
it's so bad.
We're all over the place. Also, Mondays are tough because I crash so hard onto Saturday and Sundays. I get like 9 hours of sleep.
Oh, wow.
And then I
Jealous.
need to adjust
Yeah.
and try to get back to get up at 4.
My schedule keeps me up early in the morning. There's one shift that's really early that starts really, really early. So I've got to be up anyway early on the weekends. But yeah, it's hard. It's always after that. Yeah.
All of you adjusting this morning, we are right there with you.
And especially
grab another cup of coffee.
If you have kids. Regardless of how old they are, we know how well they all adjust this morning. I'm certain getting them up and out of bed and getting them ready for the day was an absolute dream. I'm sure that they totally understood exactly what was going on.
Let's go to the phone lines. Jim in Sterling. Good morning, Jim. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show.
Morning.
Good morning. How are we going to grow crops? And is there gravity there, or do you have to be tethered to the planet? How does that work? I don't know.
Yeah, with regards to
question, I don't know.
Mars and the moon, there's both gravity. Now, on Mars...
there is.
Yeah, not the same amount, though. But
not the same amount. But with regards to Mars, they believe there may be some water underneath all of that dirt. Some of the more recent digging has found that there's some water there that they might be able to melt. So
as a farmer, I mean, if you can't grow your own vegetation, how are you going to grow a cow?
Yeah.
How are you going to grow carrots?
I'm
just throwing
Matt
things
Damon,
out there.
With Matt Damon, in the Martian movie, he was able to do potatoes, but that is going to be one of the largest problems that we have with the idea of colonization, because it is too labor intensive and too it's too much of a barrier to take stuff with us to build there. Like if you were going to set up a giant greenhouse and try to grow a variety of fruits and vegetables, bringing all that stuff with you is nearly impossible. You're going to have to fabricate that on planet.
But I thought the oxygen was lower in the...
Oh, yeah, much lower. Yeah, there's a whole problem there.
And they'd have to get it out of the water. Jim, great questions. We'll continue to explore those. We've got Owen Strand coming up, Senior Director of the Dobson Culture Center, talking about anti-Semitism from the right. But now is time for Blake Olson.
Blake Olson.
Blake Olson, news and comment.
Hey, thanks a lot, Jeff and Billy. 42 and mostly cloudy in Denver as the clocks are now ahead 1 hour. Expecting a high of 69 today. The 7-10 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story, the Trump DHS launching a self-deportation app called CBP Home. The Biden administration was using it to help destroy our country, and now the 47 administration is flipping it, and it allows illegal aliens in the U.S. to register to self-deport. A Palestinian student at Columbia University who helped lead protests is now in federal custody. The New York Post reports Mahmoud Khalil was arrested by ICE at his campus apartment Saturday night. Khalil faces having his green card revoked as part of 47's crackdown on such protests at U.S. universities. The deadline to avoid a government shutdown is approaching. The House is working on passing a stopgap spending bill by Friday's deadline. The bill would fund the federal government through the end of September. Friend of the Jeff and Bill Show, Chip Roy from Texas.
Now, we don't have it all. So we need to keep the lights on. We need Elon to keep doing his work at Doge. We need all of that great team to deliver. And then we can insert that into appropriations this summer for FY26. Basically, freezing spending is always a good conservative win. We don't love the policies, right? That wouldn't be our normal choice. But now we have President Trump and his great team deciding how these policies are implemented. So we want to give them the flexibility to.
Here in colorful Colorado, Danielle Nerschwanger and Richard Holtorf on with the fellas this morning, and they want to lead Colorado's GOP, and they have a game plan.
And we can't get into all the details, but we know the other people that are out there will steal our plan because it's so good. They will steal it, and all of a sudden it will become a part of their platform. And they don't understand the plan implicitly. So I'm going to turn this over to Danielle because I'm really excited to serve Colorado. And I'm a selfless servant. I don't need the job. I don't need the money. Some of them need the job. Some of them desperately want a job because they need the money. And they're grifters. They're profiteers. They're people that want to take from politics. I want to give back.
Peace talks that hopefully help the help to end the war between Russia and Ukraine are set for Saudi Arabia this week. President Trump's special envoy Steve Witkoff will lead the way, and DJT reminding everyone that he doesn't favor Russia. He just wants peace.
Nobody has been tougher on Russia than Donald Trump. Nobody. And they know that. They know that. Just look at the things I just told you. The pipeline, I stopped it. The biggest job they've ever done was the pipeline, Nord Stream 2. Nobody ever heard of it until I came along. They were building it happily. They were going to supply Germany and everybody else all over Europe. And what did I do? I stopped it. The biggest economic job they've ever had, I stopped it. Biden got in on the second day.
There you go. He kept it rolling. Meanwhile, in Cincinnati, screaming with their blue and yellow flags, supporters of Ukraine yelling at J.D. Vance and his 3-year-old daughter.
Ma'am, look at my 3-year-old daughter now, and I told you, I talked to you for 5 minutes, and now I did not agree to have my 3-year-old to have people run around and yell at her, and I did talk to you, and I had said, if I talk to you for a few minutes, will you leave my 3-year-old daughter alone? And you said yes. So I'd like you guys to respect that. Thank you.
And they figured it out. Simpsons producer Rick Palizzi has this cool tree house, but City of L.A., they're making him tear it down. A top priority for them, tear down the tree house.
All I know is this.
Wrong one.
The tree house that I built with a carpenter friend 24 years ago is coming down. The city has started a criminal trial on it, and that trial is on Wednesday, and the city is going to make me pay for court costs, and it's just kind of being a bully. And so I'm taking it down. We're paying for it to get taken down, so they dismiss the charges. I do not want to go to court on Wednesday, so that's why this is all coming down.
Man, that thing is so cool. It's not like the city has fires or anything to worry about, or fire hydrants or water. Hey, the NFL's legal tampering period for free agents starts today at 10 o'clock Denver time. Teams are allowed to start contract talks with players and their agents during the 2-day window. College basketball heating up. UNC wins last night in the Big Sky Conference. They head to the semifinals. Then you got the Mountain West Conference. CSU is the number 2 seed. They play Thursday. Wednesday, CU will try to pull off some miracles in the Big 12 tournament as they begin their postseason play. 41 in Brighton, 40 in Littleton, 42 in Denver, and also the Thunder over the Nuggets last night in NBA action. Jeff and Billy continue.
Governmentium is formed whenever morons reach a critical concentration. This hypothetical quantity is referred to as critical morality.
Oh, I like that one. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
All right, one of the smartest guys out there. I love following him on X. You absolutely should, is Owen Strand. Owen is the senior director of the Dobson Cultural Center and has been confronting a growing anti-Semitism from the right, recently reminding all of us that for any Christians flirting with anti-Semitism, Jesus was a Jew, is now a Jew, and in ethnic and ancestral terms will always be a Jew. I'm so grateful for the work he's doing. He joins us now. Good morning, Dr. Strand. Thanks for joining the Jeff and Bill Show.
Morning.
Hey, Jeff and Bill. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Well, let's talk about this growing anti-Semitism we're seeing from the right, even among some characters that, were part of the family, people like Candace Owens. And you've been helping folks understand the importance of the Jewish tradition, our connection as Christians to Jews, the fact that Western civilization wouldn't have happened without the Jews. You've done a really good job of exploring all this. But help us understand where this has come from and how you're combating it.
Yeah, we seem to be living in crazy town 24/7 these days. And one sign of that is that anti-Semitism is back and back with a vengeance. And I don't think a lot of us would have seen this. It's kind of one of those realities of history, especially obviously 20th century history with the Holocaust, which really did happen, by the way, for anybody confused about that, where you're thinking everybody knows, that over the centuries, over millennia, especially in Europe and beyond in the West, Jews have been targeted cyclically. And so there have been these outbreaks of violence against the Jews. It even happened tragically in Germany in Martin Luther's day. And Martin Luther, who I revere as a Protestant theologian, actually helped fan the flames of some of that persecution of Jews. So there's this dark side occasionally to European civilization where the Jews just come in for a hiding. And ultimately, I'm a theologian, so with apologies to anybody out there who isn't very theologically minded, I think Satan hates the Jews, and Satan has been targeting them since really the Jewish nation began. And that has arisen again in our day. We all thought this was extinct. We thought it was an artifact of history, that Jewish people, would get persecuted, and that was horrible. But it's back, and it's a clear and present danger in our time today.
We're talking with Dr. Owen Strand. He serves as the senior director of the Dobson Cultural Center. Now, Dr. Strand, we've seen it on the left, right? We saw the campus protests at Columbia University. We had some lawmakers here in Colorado that were openly anti-Semitic. They fortunately lost their primaries. But then we're seeing some on the right as well. We've seen folks like Nick Fuentes and others traffic in this type of anti-Semitism. Talk to me specifically about where this is coming from on the right and why some folks are kind of drawn to this.
Yeah, it's coming from the figures you mentioned. A lot of us were thankful for what Candace Owens did with Blexit several years ago. She's done some important work, and she's a fiery voice and gets a lot of things right. But sadly, there's been this turn in her content and the content of some others out there. Fuentes would be a very prominent example of that, very unhelpful and unhealthy element of the right, so to speak, where there is this distrust of Israel, the Middle Eastern state of Israel. People see it in a very nefarious way. Right now, Israel and the Mossad is being connected to the Epstein files that have yet to be fully released, or the client list, that is, hasn't been released. And so there's a lot of discussion there. It's argued basically, and this is the argument that Hitler and his comrades used, that there is a cabal of Jewish global influence and Jewish money controls the world, basically. And so that is just a recurring idea. It's really a conspiracy theory, but it's getting traction on the right. And there's a lot of reasons why, Jeff, it would be getting traction. One of them is we've lost trust in institutions. And so a lot of people out there, including a lot of conservatives, and I am thoroughly a conservative, a Christian and a conservative, would now be distrusting the government after what happened with lockdowns and what has happened with the transgender agenda and the LGBTQ agenda and all sorts of other terrible agendas. And so that has caused people to believe, basically, conspiracy theories, because Tragically, some of them have been true. But that doesn't mean they're all true. And we need conservatives and Christians to return to a sound mind. It's not wrong to say that there are Jewish people out there, unsaved Jewish people, who are mixed up in some very bad things, and they may even be leading some of those trends. But that is not at all the same thing as thinking all the Jews are especially evil, all the Jews are participating globally in some terrible conspiracy that's running the earth. And by the way, last thing, Jeff, if the Jews really are running the earth and have been for, 500-600 years, they're doing a very bad job of it because they keep getting horrifically targeted and slaughtered over and over again.
Talking with Dr. Owen Strand. He serves as the senior director of the Dobson Cultural Center. He's an author. You got to follow him on X. He's great at OSTRACHAN. OSTRACHAN. Dr. Strand, I want to ask you about the importance of the Christian connection, both historically and theologically, to the Jewish people. I'm thinking about the book of Matthew. I'm thinking about Romans. I'm thinking even about the book Hebrews, and how the early church was so deliberate to connect our Christian tradition to the Jewish people through Mary's lineage, to David, and all the connection there. Help people understand why that was so important to the early Christian church, and why it's important for us as Christians today to connect our traditions and our story to the Jewish people.
Yeah, well said. Christianity is built on the foundation of Old Testament Judaism. You cannot separate the two. You can't separate the Old Testament from the New Testament the way a lot of people want to do. So when Jesus comes as the figure, the messianic figure who is the greater David. That's how he's introduced, as you mentioned a minute ago, in Matthew's gospel. He's the son of David and the son of Abraham. So Jesus is the one who leads an outbreak, against the Pharisees and the Sadducees and the corrupt Jewish leaders of his day. So we don't want to get things confused and say Judaism and Christianity both coexist according to Jesus. No, Jesus comes as the fulfillment of all the Old Testament promises, and he dies on the cross for the sins of all who would ever believe in him. And that means that even as Jesus is beginning what we call the Christian church, there are all sorts of believers who have their sins washed in the blood of Jesus, who are Jewish, and then increasingly, as the New Testament goes on, Gentiles are coming into the Christian church. If you go to the writings of the Apostle Paul in, for example, Romans 9 through 11, you see that the Jews, even though they rejected Jesus in their day about 2,000 years ago, they called out for his crucifixion, and Paul goes so far as to identify them as enemies of God. And Paul being a former Jew himself, so he knows of what he speaks. Even with all that in the background, the Apostle Paul teaches in Romans 9 through 11 that there's going to be a future ingathering of Jews, and they are beloved, Paul says in Romans 11:28, in the covenantal plans of God. So, to speak common English in all this, what this means is, yes, sadly, many Jews did turn their back on Jesus. Many Jews, even now, today, are lost and are secular, are not following Jesus truly. And yet, we're not called to hate the Jews. There's no New Testament passage that tells us to look with special suspicion at the Jews. We're called to love the Jews, pray for the Jews. And even in civilizational terms with the Middle East, we're called to be the friend of Israel. I firmly and fully believe Israel, the nation state of Israel, is the only democracy in the Middle East. It's historically been very closely aligned with America, and we know that many Jews in the end are going to turn to Jesus and trust in Jesus. And so all of that leads us, there's a lot to say here, but all of that leads us squarely away from anything even approaching anti-Semitism. And it leads us as believers to not hate the Jews, but to reach out to them in love and seek to win them to Christ.
We're talking with Dr. Owen Strand. He's the senior director of the Dobson Cultural Center. So how should conservatives respond to those that, like you mentioned, have done good work within the conservative movement, like Candace Owens on Brexit, but seem to have bought into this conspiracy of a global cabal of Jews? I get these comments a lot on my ex, people that would agree with me on other stuff, but then kind of randomly go off into anti-Semitism. It's important for conservatives to address this within our own, just as Democrats need to address anti-Semitism within their own party. So your advice to conservatives?
Yeah, we have bad ideas that crop up on our side too, and we have bad actors, and let's not pretend we don't. What we need to do is we need to recognize that people on the right are falling into a Kafka trap, just like the left with wokeness a few years ago sold people a Kafka trap. So it was sort of like, what are you doing about your white supremacy because of your white skin? That's what the woke left was asking us a few years ago. Why are you a white supremacist, white person, or whatever you would call somebody? And we're like, hold up, you just assumed that I'm a white supremacist because of the color of my skin. That's a trap. I'm guilty either way. You have all the exits covered. That's what's happening today with the Jews on the right. It's like, why aren't you speaking against the Jewish conspiracy that controls the world? And we need to go, hold up, that's a Kafka trap. You have assumed that either way I'm guilty, and you have assumed that there is this Jewish conspiracy running the earth. What we need to do, Jeff, is we need to very calmly engage people around us, fellow conservatives who are falling prey to this conspiracy theory, and we need to look them in the eye very calmly again, and we need to say there is no global conspiracy, and then we need to say, prove this to me. Show me evidence. Give me clear and hard data that shows that there is a global conspiracy. You're not going to get very much. You might get these weird graphics that I get on social media with lots of different people and then arrows connecting people, and it honestly looks like basically a crazy person's chart, because that's what it is. We can help people understand, as I said a few minutes ago, there are lots of lost Jews out there. Some of them are doing some bad things in the world. There are lots of lost Protestant people out there. Some of them are doing very bad things in the world. There are lots of evil people of all different skin colors and backgrounds doing evil things at every moment. So I'm sorry, but I can't help but go to Scripture. There's no biblical grounding for believing that one group of people is especially wicked because of their ethnicity or skin color. That was the lie of the woke left a couple years ago. We've dismantled a lot of that in America today. That system is still collapsing, and long may it collapse. But now we've got to do some work from the woke right, and we've got to guard against anti-Semitism in these kind of ways, because it is ascendant in our time.
We're talking with Dr. Owen Strand. He's the senior director of the Dobson Cultural Center. Dr. Strand, give us a sense of some of the projects you're working on over with the Dobson Cultural Center, some of the work you're doing. You're an author of numerous books, and I strongly recommend that people follow you at x.com/OSTRACHAN. Owen Strand, give us an update on the work you're doing.
Yeah, thank you. That's very kind, Jeff. We're headquartered in Colorado Springs. I work remotely for James Dobson Family Institute and run what is called the Dobson Culture Center. We recently released a pro-life resource, and so folks can check that out at jdfi.org. That was something I worked very closely on. We did some work in the election. I do a weekly article to help people engage culture, just the kind of way that we're doing now, Jeff, and I'm very thankful to work for a Colorado organization, and I'm very thankful for the great work you and Bill are doing, and really, really appreciate all you are trying to do to renew Colorado. So we at JDFI would very much be standing with you and thankful for what you're doing in that great state. Let's see Colorado revived in our time.
Yeah, it always is a gut punch to know the Colorado I grew up in, know the influence, particularly that Colorado Springs had on our policy, and to know now that it's in the complete opposite direction. So we need Christians to wake up and fight for their rights. I'll ask you this question. I know we've got a few more minutes with you. When Christians step into the public square, they're often criticized for wanting to bring about a Christian nationalism. That's a critique you get in a very woke blue state like Colorado right now. Why should Coloradans, particularly Christian, Jewish, conservative Coloradans who want to bring their values into the public square, want to see that revival of Colorado Springs values back on our public policy, why should they do that?
Yeah, and there's different forms of Christian nationalism. And so there's one form that I really don't agree with, which is, bring back Old Testament law and make everybody subject to it, or else they get their head chopped off. I'm not for that, and I've been a critic of that, and I'm glad to be a critic of that. There's another form of what is called Christian nationalism, which is what you just described, where it's basically being a Christian in public and wanting things like free speech and free markets to flourish and religious liberty to be on the books in America and meaningfully practiced and all sorts of other good things like that. And I am altogether for that. Christianity, in terms of its key principles, has formed and really seeded the ground of Western civilization. And so we don't exactly have a weak hand to play here. We and many who would agree with us, at least on a lot of those political issues and philosophical matters, we need to step back up, and we need to reclaim some confidence in the Western heritage. We need to say it's not just a populist movement that can make America great, but we need to reclaim free speech, free markets, free thinking, free universities, a genuine democratic order. And if we can do those things, not everybody's going to agree with us. Not everybody is going to become a Christian, but what we're going to see is a much healthier public order. And so when you think about America, last thing I'll say, not everybody in America has been a Christian over its existence, but Christian principles have created this haven for immigrants and people of all different backgrounds and religions to come, and they are free. And we don't believe as believers in coercing people to follow Jesus. We believe that the gospel is so glorious, the blood of Jesus is so powerful that people will want to follow Jesus because of it. But we also believe in making our case and other people making their case. And that's very different than where the left has gone with trying to shut down ideas and free speech. And even some on the right, that's different from where they have gone. So we want to reclaim what is called classical liberalism and bring it back for the rising generation.
That's Dr. Owen Strand you're hearing. He's the senior director of the Dobson Cultural Center. I think he's one of the more brilliant theologians today, doing great work to shape public thinking on our values, public policy, and he's doing a great job on X confronting a rising anti-Semitism that sometimes is coming from the right as well. You can follow him on X at x.com/OSTRACHAN. Dr. Strand, thanks so much for taking time to join the Jeff and Bill Show this morning.
Yeah, thanks for the time.
Thank you, guys. Keep up the great work. Appreciate you.
Thank you. And I appreciate him confronting this kind of bizarre conspiracy theory that overlaps with everything that Tim Hernandez is saying, right? So you get this Nick Fuentes argument that, or Candace Owens, that there's a cabal of Jews that are controlling our world and we need to confront them, which is no different than what Tim Hernandez is saying. There's a cabal of Jews that's killing Palestinians and it's terrible and all that stuff. And I think it's critical for us to stand with our Jewish friends, especially in an effort that's coming from radical Islamists to wipe them off the face of the earth. I mean, that's the point of Hamas. That's part of their charter, to remove not just Jews from Israel, but all Jews from the entire earth. And he does a good job laying out the history. But I'll say this again: we do not have Western civilization without the impact of the Jewish people, the passing on of the Ten Commandments, the notion of individual human freedom that came from Moses. All of that we inherited and has built Western civilization. And Israel's a good country in the Middle East worth defending. So I appreciate Dr. Owen Strand willing to say to our own family, knock it off. There's not a global cabal of Jews that's trying to control the earth. Stand with Israel. It's part of our spiritual and historical traditions to do so.
I appreciate where he was going, and I agree with so much that he was saying. And I didn't think there was a place for some of the politics side of things where my mind went. But I think part of the reason that we've got an issue with this is the demagoguery of wealthy people at times. And the person I'm pointing to is the George Soros idea that George Soros is a Jewish man who is controlling part of the liberal machinations inside of the U.S. I think, while not necessarily anti-Semitic, I think it lays the groundwork to get there. Because if you believe that George Soros is electing these super liberal attorney generals, and then he's the one that is responsible for these court cases, and George Soros is taking over radio stations, and George Soros is getting politicians elected, as soon as you say that it's all because of him, that somehow he is the puppet master behind the scenes, it's only a hop, skip, and a jump to the Jewish people are the problem. Because you've already identified the problem. That problem that you've identified happens to be of a particular religion.
I don't see George Soros being motivated by his Judaism, though. And so to make that leap, I get that.
But that's where it goes.
I think it's a fair critique of George Soros and guys like, so I've had this, Kyle Clark's done this to me, where I'm like, Jared Polis is terrible, Phil Weiser's terrible, Jenna Griswold, terrible for the state of Colorado. Well, you're being anti-Semitic. Well, no, I'm not. I'm criticizing these guys because I don't think they're motivated by their Judaism.
Yeah,
I mean, maybe they are, but their policies are disastrous, and I don't tie that at all to their Judaism.
Yeah, and
I tie it to their leftism.
And that's where you get into the prejudice, and I believe it's prejudice on both sides, on the idea that the only reason you're critiquing this person is because of their religion, and on the other side is you can't critique this person because of their religion. But I also think that it gets wrapped up into, if this person is motivated this way, then I'm going to assume everybody behind that religion is motivated the same way. And we get it from some people based on the Christian religion. We get it saying, well, Christians want this, that, and the other thing. I remember when I was shocked in high school where I ran into someone and explained to them that I'm Catholic. And they looked at me and they said, oh, so you guys don't believe in Jesus? I went, wait, what? Hang on here. Hold on. And this was a person that was a Protestant. I'm like, you understand we're the OGs, right? You understand that Peter, the Pope, that's all us, right? You understand that is really important here. Yeah, there was a whole misunderstanding about what Catholicism was based on how this person was raised as a Protestant. So it was easy for them to then make that extension. And it's also much easier, and we didn't get into this with a doctor, it's much easier, in my opinion, to say, I'm not doing as well, and I need to externalize the reason why.
Yeah, 100%.
And it's really easy to then point at other groups. And the other is always going to be the enemy. And over the course of history, more times than not, the Jewish people have been the other. Yeah.
And to Owen's point, there's a spiritual side to that.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think it's important to recognize that.
Yeah.
Right? Like the Jewish people, chosen people of God. Okay? Old Testament, very clear on that. And in the New Testament, we're grafted into that relationship through the work of Christ that now opens salvation to the Gentiles. But when you look at history, and to Dr. Strand's point, and you see that like constant effort for whatever reason to go after the Jews, like almost seems like on a regular basis, you go, there's a spiritual thing there. And he brought it up. It's satanic, absolutely, to go after them the way that history has. So we'll be happy to hear from you. Phone lines are open, 303-696-1971. Do you see that anti-Semitism on both the right and the left, and how do we confront it? And, is it fair to critique people like Jared Polis, Phil Weiser, Jenna Griswold, and not have it be anti-Semitic? Because I've had that happen to me. Kyle Clark unleashed that little vitriol on me one time when I was like, we elected Jared Polis, Phil Weiser, Jenna Griswold. Colorado's going to get worse. And he's like, Jeff's anti-Semitic. And I was like, come on, dude, are you kidding me?
Again,
that wasn't even in my mind. That wasn't even on the reservation of my mind to critique these guys. I'm looking at them as woke progressives and how their stupid policies are going to destroy our state, and somehow you critique them and you're thrown into the anti-Semitic
category. Because he didn't look at the the constant being the politics and political party. He looked at the constant being religion.
Yes.
Yeah, which is a mistake on his part. Yeah, which is, again,
that wasn't a mistake on
form
his
of prejudice.
Part. Yeah, right. There you go. We'd love to hear from you. Let's see. We got Jim in Littleton. Good morning, Jim. You're on the Jeff and Bill show.
Good morning, gentlemen. I enjoyed that speaker you had brought on, but let's be honest. People have called you an anti-Semite if you criticize Israel. I know that goes on as well. Have you not heard that going on?
Yeah, I get that, and
okay.
I think the critique, so long as the critique is rooted in policy, yeah, it's a fair critique. Like no country gets a blank check to do whatever they want. And if you're concerned about, for instance, the way they're executing the war, and you want to critique that, sure, that's fine. But if you're going, Israel doesn't have a right to exist, or or the Jewish people have this secret cabal that's running the world, that's anti-Semitism, in my opinion. But go ahead, Jim.
Of course, that's going on. And you know what? I've had the same things going on as being a Catholic, that the Pope tells me what to do every day. So, it goes on both ends. You have it going on with Catholics
I get
as well.
that too. I get too, my friend. Yes,
okay.
The idea that the Pope tells us what to do.
Yeah, and you know what? You're exactly right. I actually, when I was in Texas, I was told I was not Christian as being a Catholic. So, it's crazy how that stuff goes on.
Yeah.
So, and it can be just as vitriol as anti-Semitic. Being on the Catholic side of being all sorts of things, like the Pope has horns on his head and all this other stuff.
Yeah. And
so
he's actually the messenger of the devil and everything else. And here's the thing, Jim, is just between you and I, the Catholics here on the show, just want to let you know that as a thing you can use, and I use this all the time to our Christian brothers and sisters that are Protestants, just always remind them that we are the OGs, we're the original, and they're just in a cult. They broke away from the actual religion. That's the way that I always tease them.
The Orthodox are the OGs. I'll tell you this, though. So Protestants believe, but like my wing of Protestantism would believe that Catholics are in the family. But I found out, like, you guys believe Protestants are in the family. So we're the ones that are the outcasts.
Not necessarily. It's not that we don't believe that you're in the family. We just believe that you're somewhat misguided based on the path that you're taking. Not that you don't follow
I've
the one true Lord.
I've been around some priests that feel like I'm outside the family.
Oh, I understand.
Go ahead, Jim.
I was just going to say, here's my problem. There has been going on with this war. So there is a segment of Christians that are Palestinians. Do you not know that?
Yes, I do.
Okay. So they are suffering extensively from what's going on in this war. And I do not agree with Israel using a bomb, one of these 1,000-pound bombs, to take out an apartment building because they've now located a Hamas leader in that building. You're killing maybe 1,000 people to take out one person? That is not ethical.
Yeah, I'd have to look at the particular case. And look, I think it's fair to critique particular operations. I don't have any problem with that. For me, though, and what Owen was addressing was this effort that's growing even among the right that believes that Israel shouldn't exist, that Israel's a real problem, that America defers too much to Israel, and that that there's somehow a global cabal of Jews. But when it comes to particular operations, absolutely, totally open to critique. Jim, great call. I appreciate it. Jim's line will be open, 303-696-1971. We've got to critique it within our family, but I will tell you, you don't see this on the left. You really don't see the left critiquing its own family on anti-Semitism. They just kind of quietly took Tim Hernandez and Elizabeth Epps out. But you didn't see Jared Polis and Phil Weiser condemning them.
Yeah, but here's the thing is, in part because the GOP sometimes prefers to fight in the parking lot where the Democrats prefer to fight in the locker room.
Yes.
So one group likes to do it publicly, the other group tends to knock down, drag out behind the scenes, and then come out wiping off the blood and using makeup to cover up the black guys and go, nope, we're all cool here. We're all cool. Everything's fine. Everything's fine. How's your day going?
Very good point. All right, we'll take your phone calls. 303-696-1971. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader News Talk 710 KNUS.
Yep, we're good to go. On Monday's Jeff and Bill Show, Richard Holtorf and Danielle Neuschwanger are teaming up to try to run the GOP. Nope. On Monday's Jeff and Bill Show, Richard Holtorf and Danielle Neuschwanger are teaming up in an effort to be the new leaders for the Colorado GOP. Nope. On Monday's Jeff and Bill Show, Richard Holtorf and Danielle Neuschwanger are teaming up to run the Colorado GOP.
second because we spent so much time with the doctor. Unfortunately, we're going to have to step aside here in a second and go right back into our commercial break. Yes, yet again. So we'll be back right after this. This is News Talk 710 KNUS. Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. This is News Talk 710 KNUS. I'm going to be right now the final 60 seconds. So, yeah. Jeff got something else that he has to do this morning, and so he had to leave us just a smidge early. Thanks for spending all the time with us today. Appreciate you listening. Also appreciate all the text messages. Interesting set of conversations. Maybe we'll go back as the leadership election gets closer and closer for the Colorado GOP about who you think is going to be the best to go forward. We talked this morning to Richard Holtorf and Danielle Neuschwanger, going to be a 1-2 punch for chairman and vice chair, whether or not they are taking the Colorado GOP potentially in the direction you want to see it. They talked this morning about the idea of getting back to the grassroots. Richard had a very good answer as far as why this version of going back to the grassroots is different than the Dave Williams version of going back to the grassroots. But I still personally have some questions about Danielle Neuschwanger. Again, not a member of the party. You don't get to vote for her as far as leadership. But in the governor's race, she lost the primary and had pledged previously to support whoever the eventual nominee was, and then left the party, and then ran as a third-party candidate. Has rejoined the party as of January, said she acknowledges and understands her mistakes, but is leadership the next correct role for someone that has done that? Is that the person that, if they're in a leadership role, can get everybody rowing in the same direction when last time she was on the other end, she decided not to, left the party, and even ran against the Republican nominee at the time? That, to me, matters. But again, I'm not wearing the jersey, so what the hell do I know? Hey, we'll check in with you tomorrow. Make sure, if you can, get a nap. Just put everything on Do Not Disturb, because this time change sucks. I mean, I know how you feel this morning. Hey, we'll be back. We'll chat with you tomorrow morning. This is Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710.